Well, yes, hello. I am James Rowland. Today it's the WNR563 NXT update. I'm not alone. I have a pleasure to be joined by our resident NXT expert and New Japan demigod. It's Monty. Monty, I need to forget your introduction, man. I'm sorry about that.
Right, I was about to say who else you introducing for NXT show? But yeah, no, always excited to be back. Catching up, getting a little bit up to date, at least. To try to figure out. It's always cool to catch up and talk about some of the stuff we missed because if it's one thing I've learned from just covering NXT, not even all the other stuff we talk about, that man, a lot can change in between our podcasts. So it's really exciting to finally get up to battleground and talk about some groundbreaking moments and talk about NXT and how it's evolving and how it's always good to check up on our resident child. You know what I mean? Like I feel
Mm.
I don't know I've never been in this position before, but I feel like one of those, not necessarily a divorced parent, but like somebody who just coming. We co-parent together. We co-parent NXT and we're checking up on our child.
Yeah, I feel like we've neglected NXT a little bit recently, but it's
Right.
fine. It's still alive.
Hopefully they didn't take it personal.
It found some old cereal in the kitchen. It was all
Right.
right.
Yes.
But like I said, we've got lots to catch up on. And there's a lot of wrestling, guys. You know, sometimes we need the breaks. But what we're going to do is we're going to split the update today. So we've got 5 NXTs and then Battleground. And in 2 weeks, we'll have 4 episodes of NXT, the massive title changes, and of course, Worlds Collide. And I think that's fair, Monty. That's the only way we can really do this. Otherwise, we'll be here for about 4.5 hours.
Exactly. And like I don't miss those couple. I know we only did like three or four of them, but I don't miss those shows where we have to pack in about seven of them. The review is long, and it's hard to give everything it's just due. So I love this plan because we can give everything the attention it deserves from for when it happened, and we can also talk about everything in a timely manner. We don't want to bore everybody, have them sitting here trying to think about something from 2 months ago. So yeah, I'm excited and I like this, and let's get this first half over.
Yeah. And again, people ask me, when did you know Monty was part of the team? When he had to sit through doing, like I said, 12 episodes of NXT. That's when I
Right.
knew.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to start with the NXT stuff and impact and fallout from TNA Unbreakable. Because again, we're going to focus TNA with the connection that we got. But Zaya Brookside beat Jasmine Nix. NXT's Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley defeated Knockouts World Tag Team Champion Heather by Elegance and Maggie Lee. Danny Luna with Jody Fret defeated Jakara Jackson. Moose beat Scripps as well. So at the time, there was a few NXT talents, but it's weird going back, like we said, and looking at this now and realizing what we would have coming up with the releases, which I think we featured
Right.
on the WWE show, but not talked about the kind of impact it's had on NXT.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's kind of crazy. Like I promise you that that's a card from not that long ago. Like you know what I mean? Like when you listen to it, it feels like, oh, what are you talking about? Like when did that happen? That was forever ago, right? But no, like it's kind of again, like I mentioned earlier, things change on the dime in this business so much. Like you said, regarding the releases, that entire card, almost everything you just listed has been affected in some way by the releases. So it's amazing, man. It's amazing how things can change on a dime. Just from like if you just look back 4 or 5 weeks and you look at the card and it's like, wow, almost none of these people are involved anymore.
Yeah, no, it is incredible. Like we said, NXT April 22nd will start with is a recap of Stand and Deliver, and then we get Morgan Rodriguez make their way to the ring to fight for the women's titles for the third time in 3 days. They face Gigi and Tatum. Rodriguez was positioned as the monster powerhouse in this one. The champion was able to retain the titles of the match. Had his fair share of messy moments, but I thought was still enough. Was still fun enough. And like I said, it is weird going back after the news of the releases. Also, the crowd was a bit flat because this was the same place as the Hall of Fame, so they extended that weekend. And Vic Joseph mocking Booker for sleeping. But you can see maybe this, we talk about the messy moments in this matchup. And again, it's not fair to blame maybe, but again, Gigi Dolan, especially what will happen in the future for a former teammate. Do you know what I mean? I feel really sorry for her. I know we shouldn't just pick one person out, but I think Gigi's a real
Right.
missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane when you really think about it because, like you mentioned, out of both of the partners, to be honest, based on when Toxic Attraction was running NXT, Gigi was the one that I kind of figured would overall you would think would be more successful. So to kind of think about where she's where that how that turned out, and then like you said, looking at this match and with her and Tatum, which I didn't again, I don't mean you talked about it. I didn't mind the pairing of, or the trip, the group with Shotzi and Tatum. It seemed like they had some momentum. And then you also mentioned on the Impact show they were picking up victory. So, they even seem to be doing fine there. So it's very, very unfortunate, man, when it comes to Gigi, because I think the talent is there. I mean, I liked her before she got signed as Priscilla Kelly and all of that. So to kind of see how just sometimes even the people that you think have potential, it just don't work out, man, under the WWE banner for whatever reason, or however they explain it away, or whether it was timing or whatever injuries, and it's always something. So it's just really unfortunate, though, like you mentioned, when you think about how things turned out for Mandy and JC going forward.
Yeah, without doubt. Ricky Saints came out to cut a promo about retaining the North American Championship. He was interrupted by Lexis King. As for the Heritage Cup, well, Lexus had to admit magic was real and had to defend it. Wow. If this didn't involve Lexis King and Penn and Teller, I would have shit all over this. But they agreed to a title versus cup match to take place on another day, as long as King retains his cup against a mystery opponent. His opponent was Noam Dar. Dar won with back elbow to regain the Heritage Cup. Everything is right with the world. Five time. We haven't seen him since, Monty. Good and bad news, I suppose.
I was just about to say. I remember when it happened, though. Oh, I was over the moon. I mean, it was. I did think that watching him have to fight in the new format was kind of annoying to me because he had mastered the old one, and like you mentioned, no one is more synonymous with the cup. Like that is his. Like Noam Dar, he is Mr. Harris, NXT Heritage Cup. So, for him to come back, and I know it ended up just being kind of like a fun thing, but it does make me wonder. You mentioned that you kind of had the Penn and Teller thing figured out, that the thing would pop back up that way. But I mentioned you to this multiple times that I don't really see a future for the cup. Now, do I do that? Now, do you think like I'm thinking that it's just gonna be like an unofficial, well, we're gonna retire it with Noam Dar type of deal, or do you think they just, because of what we know coming with releases and all this stuff, they just don't know what the hell to do with Noam Dar now? And at this point, they also don't know what to do with the cup. So it really makes you wonder. But yeah, man, it was a great moment for me because it's always cool to see the Supernova. And but yeah, man, like you said, to think about the fact that he's not even gonna be seen it's after this at all, it really makes you wonder about the future of the cup. And like I said, like if any, what is the plan for Noam Dar if it is one at all?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this might be the first case, and I hate to say it, but it might be the first case for like a champion being released, with the Heritage Cup kind of being forgot about with Noam Dar, because you would
Right.
expect him to show up and at least defend it in the meantime. And this is us, even looking into the future. What,
Even
only,
backstage segment, something,
yeah,
yeah.
like nothing, 2 months. So again, it might just be a case of them just going, yeah, okay, nil and done, and hopefully we'll see Noam Dar. I don't fucking know. It seems every time it's like he's going to get an opportunity, he just fades away. But he's one of those guys who's been around forever now. Like talk about Alicia Fox and Try
Mm-hmm.
Five Live and
He's
all
been
that
around a
kind of.
long time.
Yeah.
He has
So
survived a lot. Him and Tyler Bate, I don't know who's seen more at this, like Tyler Bate and Noam Dar. Like, I feel like they have survived a lot. So, yeah, man, I wouldn't be surprised. I really hope not because he's one of my favorites. But I really wouldn't be surprised if we found out, he asked for it or was granted or something, a release when it comes to Noam Dar. Because again, I can see the potential. I know he could be a permanent fixture on our TV screen, whether it's NXT or even in a I don't know about a proper singles run because much as I love Noam Dar, Noam Dar, just like I know what main roster aspirations truly would they actually have for a guy like Noam Dar. If
Mm.
unfortunately, even though we know the talent is there, I just don't know if he would fare much better than, like I mentioned, a Tyler Bate or where Pete Dunne is at, or other guys who seem to just be. We know they're great, but they're just lost in the shuffle. They're smaller guys. They can go out there. We know they're a good hand and give you a good match, but do you have the potential to the main roster to be more than that? And that's where the problem lies, and that's why I'm like, maybe he'll be better off released and able to be free and do other things and show go back to wrestling that insane style that we know he had and putting on great matches around the world. Maybe that's the best outcome for him. But it really was something though, because from those days, even the 205 Live days, he was one of my favorites on television. So it's really one of them things that where it's like you mentioned, that it doesn't matter. Whenever, even when he was a cruiserweight, when it was NXT UK, anytime he's been given something, he's always done his best to knock it out the park. And for some reason, it doesn't lead to that next level of opportunity for him.
Yeah, about that. And talk about Tyler Bay. He signed when he was what 19, so it's been most of his 20s where
I think he's
it's
like
not
27, 28 now, right?
exactly, yeah. So it's like if you're going to get an opportunity, then and again with Pete Dunne, but it's all these guys, like we said, and it's weird how and this is kind of bigger picture as well of the in stages of we've been through it now, like the 2.0 guys, then we saw the UK guys come
Yep.
across, and now we're moving on to like the LFG and this the
Mm-hmm.
NIL guys, and
Right.
anything with three
Evolve.
initials, we're fucked. Do you know? Just more
Right.
talent coming along, like
Right,
yeah.
right, exactly. Like they are loaded, and like that's one of those things. That's one of those harsh realities. Like they're adding. I don't know about you. I don't know if you know this, but like usually I'm pretty sure in LA, because of Money in the Bank. Usually every big PLE for the most part, you look online and you find out they did tryouts in that city. You know what I mean? So it's like every other month or so they're adding to the performance center and all of that, and adding to the evolve, adding to, like you said, LFG, and just looking for talent everywhere.
Mm.
So it's one of those things, man. It's becoming a revolving door, and you hate that because and we're gonna talk about it in a little bit more detail when we go through the releases, because there's a lot of stuff where I thought people were actually doing what you're supposed to do in developmental, improve, and they still maybe they weren't improving at the speed that they wanted. And because, like you said, we have such a turnover now, we have so much talent in and out. It's one of those things that really seems like NXT could always change on the dime. You know what I mean?
Without a doubt. Thea Hale beat Fallon Henley. Obafemi came to the ring, gave props to the young OG. Trick Willie arrived. He wants a one-on-one match. He says he is not a regular Joe, and say his name, and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. The TNA champion said Trick been complaining too much and called him entitled. The segment ended with Hendry and Femi sending Williams out of the ring. But I mean, I hoped at the time they planted seeds for potential TNA versus NXT championship match. But alas, it was just Trick there. But again, great to see Joe Hendry, especially after this coming off hot heels of the WrestleMania match, where people either seem to love it or hate it.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to have it, in my opinion. It was a great way, in my opinion, to kind of capitalize, like you mentioned, on that momentum, on those headlines. Like you said, it was polarizing for some. I loved it. I loved this WrestleMania moment. And again, to see him on NXT continuing that, especially as he was holding TNA's top crown, it was also just a good sign for the Impact, NXT relationship too. That's we're still doing this and we still got something going. I initially was exactly like you, that this segment will probably be leading to us making some history and having a champion versus champion type deal. But at the same time, I'm not surprised. I'm not mad at the direction we ended up going in, because I can see, honestly, right now, that's a hard decision. Not to say that you would want a Joe Hendry to even, possibly beat a Oberfin, but it's like, how do you book that? And then how do you make do you want to even risk a double champion situation? You definitely don't want to risk Oberfemi. You don't want him to lose for nothing, but at the same time, you don't want to make the Impact champion just come back and just, lose to losing to Randy is one thing. Coming and losing to Oba is another thing. Not that it would be a slight, obviously. So it would have been interesting, and I think that again, I initially was hyped for that, but I ended up being overall pleased with where we ended up heading because we also got a good segment out of it too.
Yeah, without doubt. Stacks waited for Luca in the desert to kill him, presumably. Miles Bourne of the NQCC and Javon Evans teamed up to take on Griffin and Lennox of Dark State, who were fresh off a win of the D'Angelo family at the weekend. Bourne had a nice showing after hot tag, but one big spinebuster put him down. Lennox and Griffin finished him off with a double powerbomb. Yeah, that's right. Tony D went round to Rizzo's. Rizzo says she loves Stacks. He taught her how to beat up women. You know, that's the important thing. Tony says, look, Tony said, it's not safe for you here. Look, you can't go home. These two random guys will take you somewhere. That is much safer, you know. But again, at least she's not dead, you know. We knew like I said, Tony D is just the vignette king at this moment in time. And it's just so silly, but I love it. I'm going to miss it when it's gone.
The funniest thing is like as soon as the turn happened, I think me and you both knew immediately the first place this was going was some grainy vignette area because like you said, that's the MO, man. That's what they are. I mean, honestly, I really would like I almost would want a vignette or backstage promo counter for the family over Tony D's entire run. And I bet you would be amazed. I know he's outdone in matches. I know he's had way more promo segments than matches, but like it would be amazing when you really think about just how much they've done. But again, it's like you said, it's I don't take it too seriously. It's like it's I don't want to say corny, but we know like again, we know what you're implying with him waiting at her residence and all of that and all that type of stuff. But it's still wrestling at the end of the day. So it's like you gotta suspend some disbelief, have fun with it. That's what I tend to do. But yeah, man, they're hey, I always said this, no matter whether I like the story they were trying to tell or not, they really do seem to be trying their damnness to act their asses off in these situations. And I always give them props for that. Because again, that's not what you don't come to the performance center to come to learn how to tell mafia stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I give them props for at least putting their all into it.
Right now, Ricky Starks was attacked by Lexus King. The NXT Women's title headlined the show with Stephanie Vaquero defending the belt against Roxanne Perez. Vaquero took her down, and Julia came out after the match and had a staring contest with the champion. But Jordan Grace was also shown watching from the crowd. We then move on to Impact, April 24th. The 3-on-1 actually helped Fatal Influence for once. JC Jane beat Rosemary. I think her first win in God knows how long. The Nemeth visited the Hardy compound. Ryan Nemeth actually stole the show, Monty, and I never thought I'd say that, but I don't know what's wrong with me, but I enjoyed it. Rebellion, April 27th. JC Jane was on a winning streak as her Fatal Influence team beat Zara Brookside, Lei Lee, and Rosemary. Ash by Elegance, I hate the tag team, but still, with Heather by Elegance, defeated Lash Legend, Jakara Jackson, and Spitfire, and also Gigi Jordan and Tatum Paxley. Tessa is not the champion, but the Nemeths are, so good and bad things as well. Shane Thorne was there answering Elias's Open Challenge. Last time we saw him was in New Japan. And Joe Hendry defeated Ethan Page and Frankie Kazarian. After the match, Trick Williams blindsided Joe, laying him out with a trick shot and standing over the champion. A lot of Impact stuff there, but, meat and potatoes, Trick has taken out Joe, so that is the direction we are headed.
Yeah, man, I thought it was an exciting way to end the show. And, again, it's one of those things that I'm used to, I've become used to it, but to have it in a big time post main event type of program and have Trick Williams, who we look at as one of the top stars in NXT, showing that he's interested and showing that he cares about the Impact Championship. Again, I think it's pretty damn cool. And again, it's one of those things that I don't know I know newer fans who always had alternatives prominent. Like if you only been watching wrestling the last 5 or 6 years and AEW has existed, then you probably don't understand just how crazy seeing WWE talent and all of this work on Impact pay-per-views and stuff like that. You don't understand just how bizarre that could be for fans like us who've been watching for a long time. But again, I just think it was a really awesome moment. And I think it was a great logical next step to start to kick off their title feud.
Mm.
And by the way,
Yeah,
I'm just like you now, James. I don't know what the hell going on with TMDK or like Shane Thorne's contract, and I don't know. I don't know who they work for at this point. But anyway, moving on.
but that's the thing with the one thing with TNA is that you could have a talent you really like and not been in a couple of shows and not realize, be like, oh, shit, they were released. But in the opposite, you can have someone like a Shane Thorne or Elias or whoever,
Right,
you know what I
somebody
mean?
just
Could
pop
be
up.
any last 20 years, you know, colons or someone like that. And you go, oh, okay, right. Anyway, 29th of
Chavo.
April. Yeah, 29th of April NXT. Joe Hendry started the show and he wants a piece of Trick. Instead, Dark State arrived and destroyed him. All right. Ricky Saints defended the North American title against Lexus King. The match the crowd was actually invested in. I mean, King might not be successful, but he actually did make the crowd care. The Culling team meeting, Spears said he doesn't mind them being losers. All right. Tony D came out and had some generic cronies on the apron for his meeting with Stacks. We knew it was going to be a match, face-to-face meeting. He talked about feeling betrayed after giving the benefit of the doubt. Stacks appeared on the screen and gave his justification for he had a bunch of guys try to attack the Don. He sent them back in and said if Stacks wants to take him down, he has to do it himself. And like we said, thank fuck they're not wrestling, you know, because it wouldn't make any sense.
Right, right. I don't know, man. I haven't. This is just classic crime syndicate or like mafia usurping the boss. Like it really is classic. Like, just very, very. Now, classic sound make it sound better than it is, but what cliche is really what I want to say, probably. But anyway, again, that's that section of the show right there where you just be like, oh, okay, now it's time for my godfather of wrestling, my godfather of pro wrestling segment. Let's see what they're up to now, because it almost feels like a separate universe. You know what I mean? From the rest of the wrestling, almost, if you ask me.
Well, the thing is, I love about it is you go to the prop department, right, in like WWE, you'll get like the security, you know, the security outfit that you need, or you can get the police outfit or the druids for the back in the day. And now you've got these mob outfits, you know, to fit to fit into the That's the next step, you know. Or you're a
Right,
mobster today, a generic fucking, you know, talent or whatever it is, you know, it's great.
right.
Or old man, as it seems. I don't know where they're getting them from.
Same guy a few
Like,
weeks ago you saw breaking up a brawl is now
it's now a
now
don, apparently.
right. Yeah, man. Again,
Um,
but only in pro wrestling, right? Only in
yeah.
NXT, only in pro wrestling. That's the one thing I say. What love it or hate it, only in NXT where you get stuff like this.
Exactly. Triple H asking Sean, like, why you got fucking 16 hats for? Oh, don't worry. We've got segments coming up for that. Anyway, Metaphor reunite. What could go wrong? Well, Lash Legend wants to split. So she's to blame for Jackson and Orville, I suppose, you know? And can I just say, fuck no Amdar's injury. I know we talked about him, but again, it is just the timing. Ashante was talking down to Carmen before a match with Soul. Ruka beat Petrovic with a Soul snatch. When Adonis tried to lecture Carmen, she kicked him in the face and left him in the ring, and the crowd chanting it one more time. On a separate note, Zaria reminds me of Eddie from the Last of Us TV show. But anyway, it's just I get put off it. It's good stuff all round. But that Petrovic Adonis angle lasted long, didn't it, Monty? At least a couple updates.
Yeah. I really think it left an impact, you know. It was really hot romance breakup angle, man.
Oh God,
You
yeah.
know. Well,
It's just
it's unfortunate that it's over.
yeah. Well, when they reunite, it's gonna be like Macho and Liz in it. You know, that's what the long term plan is. But anyway, Trick Williams came out to respond to what Joe Hendry said earlier in the show. He admitted Hendry had his number, but he said he won't be the same when he fights him for the TNA title. Ava come out and criticise him for his actions. She said next week we'd have a 25-man battle royal for a shot at the NXT title at Battleground. So if he wants a shot at that, he has to earn it. Then we see Undertaker showing up. He has guys from LFG, but tells Oba it's his yard. What has he become? You know, I mean, I don't watch LFG, Monty. We don't get it
Nah,
over
me
here, to
either.
be fair. But man, it's sad. Like, you know what I mean? I know why people
Yeah.
now, you know, when I was young, they were talking about Ric Flair wrestling, and I was going, it's not that bad. And now I'd say, this is what the Undertaker's doing. You know?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of the whole reality TV coaching deal. I mean, I don't mind it, but like some of it, from the clips I've seen, some of it is like so overproduced, like you're making drama, or because like some of these wrestlers are contradict. Like I've seen Undertaker contradict himself and like get mad at students or whatever. Like, don't come out here in piercings and stuff like this, even though this is the same guy who we watched in the '90s, like literally have piercings in his head, when he was doing this whole dark ministry gimmick and stuff like this. So like it's just very funny. Like we don't disrespect don't disrespect the order of the business or whatever by wearing jewelry, or Mickey James saying don't do this and don't wear don't why are you showing your body or whatever. And I'm no and by the way, you can say whatever you want to say, Mickey James. I love you. I don't really care. But what I will say is that it's like how much of this is real coaching and how much of this is we need drama. We need clips for our reality TV show. And like same thing with Bully Ray arguing about to fight one of the students. Like, of course, Bully Ray, or of course he's annoying someone to that extent. So again, I'm not a big fan of the style show anyway. What I am a fan of is that a couple of the talents that I've seen come from that they are showcasing do seem to have real potential. So I do like that. But like you mentioned, seeing Undertaker just pop up out of nowhere, and now he's like, hey, remember Al Snow was the tough enough guy? That's what it's crazy to see Undertaker be like Al Snow now. Like when Al Snow was everybody knew Al Snow was the coach of the tough enough guys. And he
Oh god, I can't believe you compared them.
think about it. That's what
Housewife,
Undertaker's
thank you.
doing though.
Yeah.
That's what it's doing. It's crazy.
Oh,
But
fucking
yeah,
hell.
that's where we are. That's where we are,
Well,
2025, guys. Undertaker's
al-
Al Snow.
also where we are, we haven't got Fraxham anymore. So, like we talk about, I know we're gonna. I'll have to mention them once in the update. I still miss them, but even though they're doing bangers on the main roster, so we have to deal with Hank and Tank defending NXT titles against Briggs and Inamura. This is Inamura heading back to Noah in Japan. So again, the result may be not in doubt with Hank and Tank retaining. Chase U, which ended 5 months ago. But they had an idea they want to reform it. I mean, to be fair, Monty, we've looked at the history. It's helped Riley Osborne and Duke Hudson and Booty Haywood and Rich Holland, so it's a gift that keeps on giving.
I like how you left out everybody except the one person that might have helped. That's great. But yeah, no. If there's anybody who can talk about the benefits of Chase U, hey, I'm the problem, John. I remember who was the main one saying how much they liked the cussing vignettes and all that. I enjoyed it at first. Then he got a gambling problem. Then he got sucked into the mafia uh, part of the show, and that went on
Damn
forever.
you,
But anyway,
Tony.
right? Damn you, Tony. But don't even let me go back to that. Either way it goes, we even had a Jason Jane era in Chase U. Like that's how long it's been. We've had a lot
Fucking hell.
already. So the fact that they don't want to kill this dead, it really makes me wonder: can Andre Chase not do anything else? Like he has no other ideas for Mr. Chase, huh? I don't know,
It's
but we'll see how it goes, man. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to sound crazy here, but it's almost like it's an action figure that you can't change. So you have to just
Right,
keep doing the chase shoot gimmick because, like you said, there's nothing under the jumper. Like it's
right.
literally like you have to paint over it or something like that. Anyway, main event was Grace and Sky taking on Perez and Julia. And immediately took the fight out of the ring, and Sky and Grace took control. I mean, all four of these are the best NXT ever had to offer. So it's coming no surprise. It's fun and entertainment match. Grace and Julia fought in the aisle, leaving Sky to score the win with a signature moonsault to Perez. The show ended with a shot of Ava telling Stephanie Vaquer her next challenger will be the winner of Julia versus Jordan Grace next week. And again, if you're doing a drinking game at home, this is the time where I go, oh, the NXT women's division is the best division in wrestling. But again, it showed it here. And again, it showed the progression as like someone like Io Sky, because they dropped the ball so many times from NXT talent. But her to come back the way she is now, kind of fully formed, it is a great moment for her as well.
Yeah, because I think at this point, this is probably her main roster peak, and so it's really cool to see EO back. At this, we know what she was in NXT, still one of the greatest of all time in that regard. And I also thought it bode really well for the three other ladies, for Julia Rocks. You know what I mean? And Steph, it would bode well for them to also be in the ring and to kind of show that that's trust, in my opinion. Like, I put my top woman, my world champion, in the ring with you girls. And again, I think we all know at this point that they are the best in the world, or at least in the conversation with some of the best in the world. And again, they prove it, and with matches like this, and also just like I said, the way they all been presented and still respected, win or lose. So, yeah, man, it's really cool. And you're 100% right, James. Like, honestly, some of the best moments is to watch, not necessarily homegrown, because I know EO was a legend way before she came to WWE, but a legend around the world. But to see somebody build themselves up through NXT and then get to the top of the main roster and then be able to come back, it's always cool to see that reaction. Like, you know what I mean? And to see, like you said, her at the top come down and then give the rub of respect to the next generation of girls who will probably be joining her sooner than later. Yeah, man, this is a really cool match, cool moment, and again, it's one of those things that as somebody who watched a lot of NXT, think about what EO was before she turned heel, and like just how we watched the maturation process of her figuring it out and getting where she is now. And it hasn't always been the greatest on the main roster, but her resume there has been also been pretty good. And like I said, at this very moment, she seems to be at the top of her game and at the top of her popularity. So this was excellent, man. Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, and not to sound too old for the people listening, but make the most of it, and especially when you're watching wrestling and certain things, because again, even this match itself, in a month's time, kind of is not really there anymore. And again, we'll get onto that
Mm-hmm.
on the next update. But
Mm-hmm.
again, at the time, May 1st Impact, Robert Stone is now a deputy. Yeah, well, let's hope they don't shoot the sheriff, eh? He's brought in Victoria Crawford, the former Alicia Fox, for a knockout title match. That's what I'm saying, Monty. Like, Alicia Fox, why would he do that? Speaking of knockouts, Trick knocked out Joe Hendry again after the main event. And then, like we talk about the WWE releases that happened, which were Braun Strowman, Shayna Baszler, Dakota Kai, Caden Carter, Katana Chance, Cora Day, Gigi Dolan, Eddie Thorpe, Riley Osborne, Jacoby Jackson, Wolfgang, Joe Coffey, Mark Coffey, thus ending Gallus, Ora Mensa, and Big Body Javier Barnell. A lot of names, Monty, that we kind of had an eye on for a long time, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's one of them situations, man. And that's why right after the day after, or like even the same day, once we started to finally get the entire list of people, I just sat back and I'm just like, you know, to me, I'm not saying that Sean, I don't know. No one knows to what extent Sean or anybody who's booking NXT what say they have in these cuts, but man, it really just guts you, man, when you think about some of the stuff, because a lot of everybody almost that was in there, maybe besides maybe a Gallus or whatever, was basically involved, like especially the ladies. The ladies, everybody was involved in something, and for it to go down the way it did and for us to lose, like we mentioned earlier with Gigi, Cora J shocked me because I thought, even though I knew she had an injury thing in history, and I can understand kinda from that perspective, it still sucks because she was so young, and we put her and Roxanne in that same category because not only because of their friendship, but because of in the story that between them, they kind of was when Toxic Attraction was running thing, Cora Jade was supposed to be the future, supposed to be leading us forward. Same thing with Roxanne Perez as time went on. And again, I know some unfortunate luck and health issues and stuff came up, but it really was unfortunate to see a Jakar Jackson, who again, like you mentioned, James, you kind of blame TV. If you're going off TV, you blame Lash because she decided to split up. But
What a
it
bitch.
sucks. It really, really sucks because I thought for a fact somebody like Jakar was actually doing what you're supposed to do in NXT. Now, do I think she's tearing it up, and do I think she's like the potential to be world champion next year or something? No, she wasn't on that trajectory quite yet. But my whole thought process is that NXT is developmental, and she was growing. Every tag match that they allowed her and Lash to have, you can see improvement. She almost seemed like she was adding a move every match, almost, So it kind of sucks when you think about that. And again, also to me, when we talk about those women's division, women's tag titles, and women's mid card titles, to be losing all of this potential talent, it's really really unfortunate. Even Big Body Hobby. I know they never really did much with him, but always got a kick out of Big Body Hobby popping up and losing back. In his time. So again, you don't know the potential of some of these talent and all of that when you think about it, but it's just one of those things that you never really know. I was like you mentioned earlier about feeling bad for Gigi. Obviously, I also was like, well, then what's next for Tatum? You know what I mean? Because you take her entire faction away. So these releases gave me a lot of emotions at the time, and it really sucked. Even though we've been down this road, but it don't matter how many times. I say this all the time. It don't matter how many times we've been here when it comes to cuts, and especially when it comes to NXT, because I know we're adding talent every day, but we watch these talent try to figure it out on a week to week basis. So and they kind of most of them are stuck with whatever you give them, and and they got to make the most of it. But then you realize that they're on a time crunch, and there's all types of other factors being taken into account. So it really, really is one of those things to where it's like one of the hardest parts of watching as much NXT as we do. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
you almost expect it. Because at this point, every year we've lost a chunk of something, whether it's the call up or whether they're getting released. So it's like one of those real tough downsides to watching
Yeah.
NXT.
Yeah, and another thing I'll say as well, and again, we know I mocked Brooks Jensen or someone like Rich Holland, but I'm not wishing these guys get released. And 'cause you hear that a lot when you go, well, why give it a Gigi when
Right. No,
you've
no, no,
not
no. These people
get rid
lie
of
to me.
X? Exactly.
Right,
So
right.
just give it a chance. And again, hopefully these girls and guys can recover, especially where AEW and the way wrestling is at the moment. There's like I said, markets and opportunities. Matt Cardona always
Right.
says that, doesn't he? You either you can go and become your WWE gimmick or create something new. So there's the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. But like you said, it is always sad because we try to see him develop. Next episode of NXT, 6th of May, it opens with some shots of people arriving at the Performance Center. For we went to the ring with Joe Hendry and Hank and Tank entrances versus Dark State. It was Griffin Lennox and Cutler James, remembers, chosen. Joe got carried away with the fall away slams, but it looked like victory was theirs. Trick Williams pulled Hendry out the ring, threw him to the back, which left Hank and Tank to be taken out by Dark State with a huge power bomb for the win. And Joe just can't catch a break at this moment in time. And Dark State, they're kind of Trick's lackeys without being Trick's lackeys. Do you know what I mean? They've not made a decision with Dark State yet.
Yeah, it do feel like they're like it's unspoken, especially the last few weeks, because they seem to always have an adjacent feud with somebody that Trick's feuding with, and yeah, it's very very weird. I don't know if they just don't. I don't know if they're not sure to pull the trigger on Trick as a leader or what, but it definitely feels like, especially at this point in time, like basically the last few weeks of TV, when it comes to Trick Williams, the Dark State has had his back. So it's like it's really one of those weird situations where it's like, okay, what is going on here? Are they, like you mentioned? I'm like you. I'm thinking it's more so just not really sure. But to me, that's probably the biggest undoing for the Dark State right now. It's like I feel like they supposed to be much more intimidating or much more of an impact than they are currently. But the biggest problem is what we talked about when they kind of debuted is we don't know what their goal is. Every faction has not only a leader usually, but they also have a clear goal. And we're not really sure. Like it don't seem like the goal is to occupy NXT and take over and whoop, whoop, whoop. So they're just like you mentioned, they just seem like unspoken Trick Williams lackeys right now.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Kalani Jordan versus Azaria. Both women went crashing through the barricade when Azaria hit a spear, and that paved way for a finisher for the win. Parker challenged Carmen Petrovic to a match during a backstage segment, and the shot over Femi's NXT Championship was on the line as 25 men from across NXT, LFG, Evolve, and TNA competed in the Battle Royal. Trick Williams entered the ring first before a break, and Ethan Page joined the fray when we returned. The final entrant was Elijah, who was known as Elias in WWE. So Kevin Owens is going fucking crazy at home. If you get it, you get it. Otherwise, in this matchup, I recognise Charlie Dempsey, Miles Bourne, Tavian Heights. It took me ages to think of his name, actually. Wesley, Igwe DePoint, Zachary Wentz, Timothy Thatcher. I mean, where you been, you know? The Cullen, Javon, Ridge, Ashanti, Lexus, Evolve, and LFG guys. No way. I've just seen Briggs and Namora as well. Jensen is a cunt. He eliminated himself. The young Sean Legacy impressed. Williams' actions early in the show came back to haunt him when Hendry showed up, distract him so Elijah could throw him out. And Miles Bourne, Sean Spears, Javon Evans, and Page for the final four. The shocking ending. It was Miles Bourne ended up getting the win, eliminated Page and Spears. That was a bit different, but again, Monty, I mean, I get your thoughts and all that, but as we mentioned, it shows why the cuts were made when you look at how many's there, and that's not counting like the athletes or the celebrities or the influencers or anything else, you know. But quite the moment for Miles.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the decision. I mean, we kind of talked about this. Where is that next tier of guys besides a Trick Williams, besides a Javon that's gonna threaten the champion? So I kind of understand trying to make a Miles Bourne. A battle royal is a good way for him to get a victory, but at the same time, not not quite, earn a number one contendership like in a one-on-one setting over someone else. So you can kind of say luck played a factor, but at the same time, it worked for him. It worked for the underdog story that they're trying to kind of tell here with Miles. And I don't really mind it. It was cool though, like you mentioned. I think the best part of the match almost was kind of like the surprises, some of the faces that you recognize that we haven't seen in a while, like you mentioned with Thatcher and you know what I mean? And seeing, I mean, for me, it's always cool to even see Wesley. I'm glad you're still around, Wes. You know what I mean? And but the reaction for Elijah too, that was interesting too. I enjoyed how much it seemed the fans seem to. I don't know. It's kind of funny, man. Like NXT, I always say the NXT crowd seems like they will welcome almost anybody, but at the same time the internet was also very excited to see him back in the WWE ring too. So it's very funny what happens when you go away for a little while and how again absence, hard grow fonder as they
Yeah,
say.
exactly.
But again, it was that was awesome. I didn't mind, like I said, I didn't mind Miles winning. I kind of got the thought process, even though I thought Trick Williams did a really good job in this match, and I also thought the young OG. I mean, of course, everything he does is insane. So this was cool, man. I didn't have a problem with this one. I actually thought this was a fun battle royal, and that's the point. You not only did it have stakes, which in my opinion is the best way to do a battle royal. Like I'm not really a big fan of like the battle royal just for a trophy or whatever. Like no, give me some real stakes. Give us something to pay it off with, and again, we got a fresh challenger, so I can't be mad at it. Even if I do think Miles Bourne has a lot to prove when it comes to getting a spot like that. Because again, like we mentioned, we're not deep right now in the world title scene, but you still have to prove that you belong over a lot of the other talent that were in the match. But you're 100% right, John. I think if you look at the way this match was formed, it was definitely affected, not necessarily affected by releases, but it kind of put a microcosm to me on where we are right now in the NXT's men's division.
Yeah, without a doubt. Jada Parker versus Carmen Petrovich. Petrovich missed rolling kick, gave Parker the opening she needed to hit a finisher for the win. Thea tried to protect Carmen but got hypnotic for her. Well, that was serve her right, wasn't it? And for the first time ever, a TNA title will be defended on an NXT PLE at Battleground. Trick versus Joe Hendry. Big news there, I suppose. Oba congratulates Miles. Dempsey wants his shot. Fortunately, he's going to get it. And the main event was the number one contendership match between Grace and Judy to determine who faces Stephanie Booker at Battleground. This started a hard-fought match and only got more intense as it went on. Grace secured the win by hitting a finisher for the pin, making her the number one contender. The champion came out to confront the challenger at the end of the show. And like I said, we're just eating good at the moment because we just know it's going to be good. Even though a couple of times in this matchup, it looked like Julia landed on her head. And I've mentioned this with Jordan Grace before. She just needs to be a little bit more careful, you know? But obviously, Judy is
Yeah.
heading to the main roster, feel about her as well, which is crazy considering her run is not even a year, you know?
Yeah, she definitely got fast track. She even mentioned the interview was faster than she expected. She kind of wanted to learn English a little bit more too. So she kind of was surprised that it was going. But she's in my opinion, I think we all know she's ready in the ring. The funny thing about what you mentioned, James, about Jordan, and I don't know how much. I'm not saying she shouldn't alter it because it's not even for me. I just know I saw a lot of people reacting to that match, and hell, you can even kind of hear Corey and them reacting to it with a couple of the spots and just being like, "Wow, like oh my god, like, is she okay?" And whoop de whoop de whoop, and I'm just like this is exactly what I wanted from me. It's like the only reason why I say that is because, and like a lot of people are not really familiar, but that was Julia's style, and like I kind of like the fact that she finally found somebody who she was willing to not pull punches because of the strength difference and all of that and stuff like that. Maybe Jordan is a little stronger than you would expect, and you kind of rotate a little bit more than usual because of it. Who knows? But I love the physicality of the match because, in my opinion, it just reminded me of that style that Julia used to fight in Stardom. But I also am very well aware that that's not necessarily the WWE style, and you also don't want to be branded. Hell, I think she might be wrongly branded a little bit already as kind of dangerous, and I don't really agree with that mostly because not only was Julia fine, but in that, like I said, she's been dropping her head a lot. Again, I'm the problem. Like my favorite wrestler is Tetsuya Naito, who used to fight Kota Ibushi, and literally their matches was 30 minutes of who can drop each other on their head in the most creative way. So I get it, and I know what the risk is. I understand completely. So that's just me. I love this match. Like this is one of my favorite NXT TV matches that we got for nothing. Which again just show you, like you said, how good we're eating when it comes to that women's division at the time. But I do agree with you. Like overall, Jordan is definitely gonna because it's not even. I don't think so, but that ain't necessarily what a lot of fans see. All the fans see is the spot where she's rotated on her head, and now you get the blame for that. You look like you don't take care. Like I think even Seth Rollins, for example, I watched the interview with Seth Rollins talking about the Cody Rhodes match when he fought him with the torn pec, and Seth Rollins said after that match was the first time he felt like people started to finally say, "Oh, well, maybe Seth do protect. Maybe Seth is kind of safe in the ring because Seth still gets talked about for the few times the buckle bomb, hurt, Finn, and I think even Sting. You know what I mean? So Seth still years later gets thrown as kind of not as safe. But that Cody match kind of showed people that he can work a match like that and be very safe. So again, it's kind of like that stuff follows you is my point. And I don't
Yeah.
want Jordan Grace to get lumped into like a category of, oh, she's this and that just because of a couple of spots in a stiff match. I just think they had a stiff match, but I understand everybody's concern.
Yeah, that. I mean, and again, go back even a little bit further, like someone like Mr. Kennedy, whose kind of career in
Right.
WWE was
Got
ended.
derailed.
All you get, Grace
Right.
does that to Charlotte. I mean, Jackson will love it,
Right.
but
Right. I 100% agree. I get it.
Impact May 8th, Trick started the show and it ended with Brawl and Security. Such an NXT thing to do. May 13th, NXT Milesborn and the Quarter Catch Crew opened the show with promo for Dempsey and Obafemi's schedule match. Miles said, judge him on his ability, not his disability. Not only was a great line, but can make a great t-shirt as well. Even Page is up to say Miles is not on his level and issued a challenge for later. So we've got Obafemi versus Charlie Boy. Champ made a big comeback, hit a power bomb to defeat the leader right in front of the number one contender. And again, Dempsey, look, at least he's getting time, but it's no real surprise, is it? I don't see him on, like you said, the release block, but the progression really is. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts? I don't think it's there at the moment, but
Yeah, no, not me. I do think it's interesting because for him to be the leader of the catch crew and to already kind of feel like they found Miles Bourne as the guy who can be the breakout. Who even know? I know Tavion got great potential. Maybe with more time, you can see Tavion too. It's very weird because I know Charlie looks the way he looks, but you know this, James. Charlie's young. Charlie is just as much the hot prospect, in my opinion, that these other two guys are too. So it's kind of crazy to kind of watch him be usurped by Miles Bourne who, but again, like you say, it's really tough to kind of make a case for him because of the way he's been presented. Even though I thought today this was okay, I thought this match was fine. It was a little disappointing because it was like to see Charlie Dempsey in there, but I guess I get it that you don't really want. I mean, Oba is just so dominant, and you don't really want to give just anybody in there a chance. But it would have been nice to watch Charlie get a little bit more offense in and do some of those weird submissions that we used to watch him do. But again, we'll see. I don't know, man. What do you think overall before we go move on? Like, do you like the trajectory of Charles Dempsey right now, or do it feel like what I kind of mentioned, where it feels like he's being usurped, or at least passed by when it comes to being a serious, one of those guys in NXT? Because I feel like it's a hole there, and it'd be nice if we could get a real brutal heel Charlie Dempsey to kind of freshen things up and give us another main event level talent.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. The comparisons with Regal are going to be there, but I don't think Dempsey has got the comical range that Regal has. Maybe he'll develop it and stuff. So what you need to do is, like you said, the other way of this kind of, shoot, killer, whatever it is. Like even early days Taz or fucking someone even more recent. But and again, and then do it like that. The problem is when you're in a group, like you said, you always look for that one person to stand out or break out. And Dempsey seems out of that group the least.
Right. Even over the lady.
Yeah.
I can't think of her name. Yeah. I can't think of her name off the top of my head already. But yes, even the woman in the group has become more popular. And like has seemed to leave more of an impact in their segments. And I guess it's because, like you said, they have more of a natural funny bone to them, and they've been trying to give No Quarter Catch Crew that. But yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting to see where he goes in the future. I would like I mentioned, like you said, a brutal heel run. I want him to go in there and start, leaving submission holes on well past the bell, stuff like that. Go out there, be a technician. But you got to add wrinkles to it because we have seen it before. So I can understand them not wanting to just go in that direction, but it'd be nice if they found a way to make it creative and do a little bit of what we've seen before, but mix it in with a new twist. But it'd be interesting to see where Charlie ends up over the next few months or so. Because I still think because he's so young, he's so good in the ring already. Technically, I think there's a lot of potential still there. But like you mentioned, right now, out of his faction, he seemed to be in last place when it comes to presence and whether or not people are invested in him. And again, that's going to always give you a hard time in WWE.
Yeah, that Ren Sinclair. I mean, again, the names are so generic. It's
difficult. There we go.
It?
Yeah, Ren Sinclair.
Tatum Paxley was seen backstage losing her shit. She said she's lost everyone. I mean, speak to Triple H, if that's the issue, then nothing we can do about it. We'll talk about Tatum a little bit more in a bit. Tony D versus Wes Lee. Stacks appeared on the big screen to talk to Don, and Lee took advantage of distraction so he could hit his finisher for the win. So even in a match, they had to have a backstage vignette. But still, I don't mind. Stacks said he was going to pay Rizzo a visit as D'Angelo's tried to recover. I mean, they haven't touched since the turn, Monty. Talk about slight building.
Wow. That's a great point. Wow.
Anyway.
Man. But yeah, Wesley wins. Yay.
Yeah, Wesley. Yeah. Heel turn worked. Ricky Saints accused Ethan Page of being a parade rainer, not a parade rainer. Then we get a Stephanie Vaquer promo. Not the strongest, but it's interrupted by Fatal Influence, setting up the main event later with Grace, saying she's protecting her investment. And Monty, I don't know about you, man. And again, I don't want the show to go too long, but protecting investment just gives me old school vibes. Do you know what I mean? Of like, do you want to Grace get? Like, no, you're my target. I'm going to make sure you're all right. Do you know what I mean? I just love that kind of shit.
Right. Yeah. No, 100%. It was a nice touch. With the whole protecting the investment. Nice touch. Nice touch.
Bubba Ray and The Undertaker were shown with some LFG talents backstage. Good for them. Tony D.
Tony D
was shown getting in a vehicle and taken off to find Stacks before he went back to the ring for Ethan Page versus Bourne. Surprisingly, Bourne was alone. The rest of the NQCC stayed backstage. Then we saw Tony D shown getting in a. Was talked about that already. I've just repeat myself.
He's a shit employee, by the way. I would not be paying Tony D to show up to work. We get more content when you're away from work. It feels like. But go ahead.
No. We see Bourne hitting the drop kick and rolling Page up for the win. A drop kick. Javon and Enchante chatted with Starks, issuing a challenge. Tony D was shown arriving at his safe house, only to be attacked by Stacks in the front yard. Bastard. Back in the arena, Thea Hale and taking Paxi met for a singles match. Hale tried to win the Kimura lock, but Paxi ended up getting herself disqualified after going after her opponent's eyes and refusing to relent. She lost after the match and kept attacking Hale until the refs pulled her away. Yeah, thinks right there then for her. Ava Rain presided over the contract signing for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship match at Battleground with a press conference. She put over the history of the title and some of the men who have held it. She threatened to call security and tells them both to sit down and sign the contract, and they oblige. Joe Hendry says TNA is the hottest it's been in years. It's all because he wakes up every day thinking about what he can do to make it bigger and better. He's going to defend it against all comers, and Trick said he's bigger than TNA and NXT combined. He's Hollywood Trick. And next Sunday, he's going to take Joe's fame, his title, and his brand. He signs a contract, slides it over. And Joe says, if anyone's going to find out what it's like when the 15 minutes expire, it's Trick Williams. And they sign the contract. And we go to a break. I mean, this is good shit. And what I want to see from this, the reason I'm taking so much time on it as well, is I want to see a progression like Joe Hendry, because we know what he can do, you know, in these kind of 3-minute, 5-minute segments. But we do still need to see a more serious, aggressive side to him. And I think Trick himself is playing the role brilliantly. And I think he might have borrowed quite a bit from Mello, which is nothing wrong with that. Do you know what I mean? Nothing wrong there.
No. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? You know, like you said, a lot of times you just got to, you know, take what we know works and put your own twist on it. And I think that's what he's doing. And it's definitely a lot of Mello in this, but I also just love, like you said, the confidence. You know, he's all the way there now. He's all the way there when it comes to his ego. You know, he's bigger than the entire brand. He's Hollywood Trick now, you know. And I really love the confidence in which he seemed to have when it comes to this situation. And I'm with you. I think Trick Williams right now is challenging, or is going to be a great challenge for the development and where we could go with a Joe Hendry, because we know about the song, we know about the gimmick. He's already been there. He's been to the mountaintop. But, you know, like you mentioned, what can Trick Williams do? What can this entire situation do to bring out, you know, like I said, maybe a mean streak, maybe a different side to Joe Hendry that Joe Hendry can use going forward as the flag bearer of the Impact and as the number one guy. So it'll be interesting to see. But this was really, really good. You know, like you mentioned, you know, it really feels not just as, but you know what? To me, this match feels, and maybe it's because Miles Bourne is still unproven. This feels bigger than the NXT title match. You know?
Yeah, and maybe again, that's maybe why they did, you know, Miles Bourne as challenger. But I'm probably giving them credit because, as you mentioned, the division is not, as we call, stacked at this moment in time. Not I'm saying stacked. Don't get me wrong. Fuck that. But the only problem
with versus Overfit.
Oh God, the only problem with Joe Hendry is only got one suit jacket. Well, it is TNA, you know, they don't pay that well, but we're hoping one day. Josh Briggs had a backstage segment with Sean Spears. Hank and Tank, it looked like Spears wants to reunite Briggs and Brooks Jensen. Fucking yay.
Wow.
Whatever he wants.
That's exactly what we need. The greatest NXT UK tag champion of all time.
Oh, God. The company killers. If they bring them back, NXT's in trouble. The main event, Jordan Grace and Stephanie Vaquer versus Fallon Henley and JC Jane. Grace saved Vaquer from a double team spot by putting herself in harm's way. Like I said, I love that sort of shit. Juggernaut was able to recover, hit a finisher, and pick up the win for a team. She and Vaquer had a tense moment after the match, but it didn't get physical. The show ended with a shot of Paige backstage standing over Ricky Starks after attacking him. So again, a lot going on to end the episode there. But like sometimes NXT is quite good at that, with kind of revolving storylines, so to speak, because we've not really seen a lot of Ricky Saints at this point.
Yeah, man, I think that's the kind of interesting thing. We think about how we just broke down a good month or so of television, and other than a few promos or a few segments here and there, uh, he hasn't really been featured. But again, we know the Ethan Page story is ongoing, and like you mentioned, that's one of those things with NXT. You go from one thing to the next. Some people hate that about NXT, but it's one of the few things that I don't mind, especially when everything makes sense. And the main event was solid, and led right into that segment perfectly. And I don't know, man. I mean, we'll see what happens when it comes to Ricky and Ethan's story, but I don't mind it because again, I think we already kind of know where we were when it comes to that because they're so good. They're two professionals. We kind of figured it'll probably be a long term program because they had a really good match at Stand and Deliver. So, uh, you know, it's one of those weird things where they're just going week by week, taking the next progression, and that's what this was. But you can count on not just in NXT, but just think about WWE in general. How many shows did we end on an attack like that almost at this point? You know what I mean? Like that's something
Yeah.
Sean and Triple H love to do is ending on a nice shock backstage attack.
Yeah, without a doubt. Impact May 15th. Nikita Lyons teamed with Masha Slamovich to lose to Alicia Crawford and Tessa when Masha snapped. Trick showed up and he would team with Kaz, poor bastard, to take on Elias and Joe Hendry. And then NXT May 20th. NXT Open was shot Ricky Saints arriving in the parking lot, walking right to the arena with his music played. He wanted to see the first match up close and personal, which was Javon Evans versus Sean Legacy versus Ashante Lee Adonis. Even Page attacked Saints from the crowd. So the match was coming to a close. So Evans dove on both men with several security guards because, of course, this is NXT. Legacy was able to hit a twisting suplex to get the win. I mean, this was a great way to start, like, really, if you talk about this feels like talk about a starting point of a new era for NXT, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think this was the freshest. Like I think, like we mentioned, me and you have kind of talked about where we are in the men's, where we've been in the men's division. But like this, like you said, starting off with a match like this with Sean Legacy, and having even Ashanti, in this situation with Javon Evans, it felt like you mentioned, like the freshest we've been when it comes to the NXT men's division. And whether it's the North American or the NXT championship, like I mentioned earlier, we need more prominent characters that feel like possible contenders, not just new guys, not just fresh faces. And I think Sean Legacy did a good job of showing that he can be a potential threat to someone. And him and Javon seem to have great chemistry already. So it'll be interesting to see what the future lies for Sean Legacy. But yeah, I think that's exactly what this is. This is one of those situations where it's like, okay, and then we'll even see it later on the card, in tag team action and all of that too. That this definitely feels like, okay, we got to get these guys on television and get to start establishing these new characters because we're very top heavy right now in the NXT men's division. So it's really cool to see some fresh faces come out and make an impact.
Yeah, about that. We got a Stevie and Robbie sighting. We haven't seen them in a little while. Ava, congrats to the LFG winners. Trick Williams made his way to the ring for his rap performance. Hendry was shown watching from backstage and practicing on his guitar. The performance ended without anyone else getting involved. He says he ain't never backing down for an average Joe. I mean, what did you think of this, Monty? Because again, I mean, trick rapping. I mean, I think we've seen it before, but I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we have. We've seen it before, especially on socials, but this is probably the first time they tried to do like a TV segment type of deal out of it. So I guess that's kind of a new twist, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. Uh, I'm usually hit or miss. Like a couple of the trick songs I really like, and a couple of them is like, okay, this is fine. But again, so I'm more on this is fine scale when it comes to this one. But I don't mind it whatsoever because I feel like it's one of those creative ways that Trick Williams likes to express himself. But it also falls right in line, like you mentioned, with Joe Hendry because we know that he tends to embarrass his foes musically or creatively. So I actually didn't mind it because I feel like the people who may not even know that Joe Hendry, besides his own theme song, makes songs or something like that. Maybe they don't. Maybe they're missing something. And like, okay, why Trick rapping this week? Maybe they don't get it as much. But I thought I understood it just from the perspective that I know that they both tend to make music clowning their opponent.
Yeah. Sean Spears beat Josh Briggs. Briggs tried to keep the fight going, but the numbers game caught up with him. Hank and Tank made the save and helped clear the ring. I mean, just turn on them already if that's what you're going to do. Thea Hale wants Tate Patsy to understand her. Jada Parker and the Hypnotic did the rest. Cal Dixon, Uriah Connors of the new Chase U got fucked up by the return of OTM. Bronco Nima and Lucian Price. Obafemi and Miles Bourne had their final confrontation before Battleground. The SFNQCC was not present. Femi said he respected he respected all that. He was stupid. Bourne talked about proving everyone who underestimated him wrong. The men's winner of LFG attacked Femi after Bourne left the ring. Bourne ran back and scared him up, but Femi refused his hand when he tried to help him up. And the one thing, I mean, again, you can tell me maybe if you know more about the LFG winner. I haven't got no fucking clue. Just a big dude at this moment in time. But what I like about Obafemi is that the amount of times being attacked from behind, he just kind of shrugs it off and goes, "Oh, I'll get you fucking next time." Because that's what he does.
Right, so badass, right? Like he just everything he does just screams a killer, and I think that's what's so cool about Over. Even when he gets attacked, I've seen a little bit of the winner, a few clips. I see the potential, but I'm just like you basically because I didn't watch everything or watch how he even won. So, we'll see. They seem to like him enough to kind of throw him in there with Over immediately. So I guess we'll see or throw him in or involving him with Over immediately. So it'd be interesting to actually see if anything comes of it. But yeah, man, I'm a blank slate for the most part because I've only seen clips of LFG.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. But again, it's good that they're even putting over in that situation of like, yeah, you can carry these guys now.
Right.
You've had like 40 matches. Like, yeah,
Exactly. Like with all of that experience, those many years of experience Oba had.
Uh, anyway, after Lola Vice and Fatal Influence kind of got into it backstage, Lola faced Fallon. Jane tried to help, but backfired. Vice was able to score the win with a spinning back fist. Ava booked Paige versus Saints for the North American title on the next update. That's good for Ava. She was pretty pissed at them for continuing to get into fights. Azaria versus Kalani Jordan. Ruka caught Azaria falling off the apron, but Jordan kicked them into each other, and he fused Zaria, knocked Ruka off the apron, and Jordan took advantage with a roll up and the win. And again, Kalani Jordan's gone under the radar, really, but she's trying out this new heel attitude and actually, saying, look at the relationship you've got, Sol, with Zaria is a little bit weird, actually, and it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it does make sense. It's a new side to Kalani. And like you said, we just got to kind of get that more time, I think, to develop overall. But yeah, this was solid. I think I don't know. I was meaning to ask you, what did you think about this ongoing, type of weird, friend? I don't even know what to really call it because they're blurring lines, seemingly intentionally. But like to me, I think the end goal has to be Zarya. I think maybe it'll hurt the people who are really invested the most. But when I presumably believe Zarya is going to turn on her and try to take the belt, but at the end of the day, I mean, they really are trying to, play it up this relationship. So we'll see. But to me, right now, Zarya is by far kind of like losing, not necessarily ground, but like she don't feel as close to being champion as she probably would if she wasn't attached to Soul.
Yeah.
If you probably think, and I think that's going to be the interesting conundrum. And when is it going to turn? Is it going to continue to be this, kind of blurring lines relationship to where she's blinded, or is it all a game? Like they can go very interesting ways with this storyline. But yeah, I always wonder, like, I don't know exactly where I stand on how I feel about it. It's kind of I'm kind of just trying to let it all play out and maybe see where I stand at the end. Like, what do you think about like the kind of back and forth?
Well, it's again, it's interesting because there is ways they could develop it, but again, it's never really happened in wrestling, is it? They've delicately handled it.
Right.
There's more chance of Bischoff coming out and ordering some HLA, isn't there?
Exactly.
Rather than kind of anything else. But I think even with Soul being the one to kind of use that relationship and turn heel in herself. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Because
manipulate. Do
she
you know
can
what I
be
mean? Manipulate.
manipulating. Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. And the cool, surf dude of like, yeah, well, you always wanted me. Which that's how Saul talks, by the way. But again, like you said, at the moment, her Zara's just been the lackey after the build up. When you think about all those women that came in a couple of updates ago, do you know
Yes,
what I
and
mean?
they're gone or on the
Mm,
way out on up. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
So,
you just kind of like, yeah, you're in the background. You're like, all of this is great. In my opinion, background for a heel turn for Zari, but like you mentioned, they could go on another route and give Soul a new layer, like more manipulative side. She's not this goofy, aloof surfer. You know what I mean? She can be manipulative. It's very interesting. Like I said, this can be very interesting, but at the same time, you're 100% also 100% right in. It's also based on how they choose to handle it. How they choose to present it. And can how tasteless can they continue to be with it? Because again, it hasn't really been outright. They kind of teased a little bit with Lauer and Tatum a little bit too, but again, that one again they've only ever told this story in a more obsessive kind of way. This one, that's why I say so far they've been really kind of making it seem like it's mutual and it's not really an obsessive type of deal with like Mickey James Trish. You know what I mean? So
mm-hmm.
it's very interesting to see where we're going with that. But like I say, I really I don't know. I don't know where exactly I stand, but it'd be really interesting to see overall where they decide, how they decide to play it, and how it all plays out. Because if they play their cards right, it could be one of the most compelling women's story in NXT history.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the final segment on Tuesday's show was the musical performance from Joe Hendry. He sang a song to talk Williams for the match at the weekend. Whoop that trick. We we all think you're Mello's bitch. Williams came out upset and attacked Hendry, which seemed to establish him as a heel in this situation. Hendry hit with a guitar and then the standing ovation to end the show. And on Impact, Hendry hit one last standing ovation as well to kind of solidify who I was picking in that matchup. But I mean, Monty, what were your thoughts? Because again, Joe Hendry, it's his strength, isn't it? So it's always going to be quite funny, even though maybe not his best.
Yeah, I think he's probably done funnier, but definitely still like something that you mentioned that he has a strong suit in, and I thought it did his job. I thought it did his job. It embarrassed Trick enough to kind of make everything uh make sense and give you enough heat going right into the pay per view. And then you mentioned on Impact him also getting the upper hand again. So, again, I thought honestly they did again. To be honest, heading into Battleground, by far the best built probably situation that we have going on, just with everything they've given this match. And again, on the outside looking in, watching, I definitely been enjoying it. But like again, it's really weird. Like we really are having one of the most prominent storylines in NXT be over the Impact Championship. Is one of those situations
Yeah.
that you just kind of gotta. They're like, wow, we really are doing it. But hey, I think they did a really good job building this match.
What's crazy as well is because obviously I try and watch NXT and Impact like back to back now, and it's weird to see like NXT end and then Impact start with the highlight reel of what we just seen on NXT. Like it is a continuation of
Wow.
the program as well, So really good stuff between two, like I said, making it feel a really really big deal. So we've got to NXT Battleground then May 25th, the countdown, and I nearly forgot this. I was going to start the event. I thought, oh fucking hell, there's a countdown with Mega Morant and Sam Rosenberg or some cunt like that in the studio. So I watched it. Kenny Kincaid sat down with Sol Ruka and Zara. Nothing really came from that. Sol said she's also speed champion and not like anybody cares. They said they're not going to cheat. She's proud of Zaria from opening up. I'll leave it there. Sean Spears said the Cullen can lean on his experience, yeah, of losing. Vic Joseph sat down with Miles Bourne. Miles was given 15% chance to live. But Monty, I don't want to be that guy, but it didn't help from Wagner, did it? Do you know what I mean? So I'm just
No,
saying, like.
no, it didn't.
But he said the wolf climbing the hill is hungrier, which I've never heard before, but all right. He's fight for his family. And then Blake Howard sat down with Kalani Jordan. And then we got an epic AJ Styles narrated video on the TNA World Title. I don't know if this was WWE's
Insane.
idea. Fuck, how good was this?
Yeah. No. I got a chance to see that kind of video that he did, and it's really cool to have AJ doing that. And honestly, uh, I don't know. I mean, you've been seeing him on the main roster I think if they don't have anything for him, man, just it'd be so cool to just not necessarily that he has to even go there or spend a lot of time there. I know he's closed that chapter, but just AJ Styles being involved in general in Impact, you know what that means. He is the crown jewel, if not the greatest of all time. He's definitely top three, top five, in my opinion, when it comes to Impact people you think of. So it was so cool to have him narrate and talk about the importance of the belt because, again, like I mentioned, they built this up and vignettes and the videos like that made it feel like such a big deal what we're watching. And like I said, we're talking about something that has his lineage all on his own, being talked about like that on WWE television. Is like we are literally in like a gold mine time as wrestling fans.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the main show, and it started the same time as Double or Nothing. I mean, I don't want to agree with Tony Khan, you know what I'm like, but WWE never really booked a pay per view against WCW. I mean, it is NXT, so they do it the majority of the time, I suppose, apart from the All In
Yeah.
weekend. But again, it's interesting. Does this affect your viewing habits, or do you know what I mean? Is it needed to have this much over weekend? And you know.
I don't really think so. I don't really think so because we know things are on demand. And like if you buy a pay per view, you can watch a replay most of the time. And so like I don't really understand the point. I think the people who watch both are gonna find a way to get to watch both. And the people who choose whatever they choose are going to do that too and just catch up on clips. Like I don't really see the benefit of it. I don't think it undercuts AEW pay-per-views or whatever the way you would think. You know what I'm saying? So I honestly don't like and then it also contradicts everything they want us to believe. Because what happens after every big PLE that we talk about when Triple H does his press conference? We're breaking records. We're this, we're that. Our competition is the Super Bowl and stuff like that. Like that is the type of language and rhetoric you get from them, but then their actions show otherwise. And I get it. We know what WWE is about. They want to be the biggest, the only show in town historically speaking. But you know, I just don't understand the constant need to even do this when in reality, if you truly believe AEW is not uh on your level, or like, you know, and we can all agree that financially and all that, they're not. But it's like, what then what's the point of this? You know, is it because of the NXT little the original like little Wednesday night? Or you know what I mean? Is it because of that, the original wars that happened or whatever type of thing? Like I don't get it. I really don't. But it's one of those realities that we kind of have to see, that you kind of watch WWE be a little petty for whatever reason. I know some people don't care. Some people love it, you know, because they love the tribalism. But as somebody who enjoy both, I'm with you, man. I have to agree with Tony where it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? You know, so I don't get it. I'm not a big fan of it. I still ended up like I watch. Guess you know what you think got priority? The thing I paid blah 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 for, the thing that I got on subscription that I can
Yeah, yeah.
rewatch at any time. So that's my point. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like the people who paid for a pay per view, they're gonna watch their pay per view, and then they're gonna go to your network or your Peacock or Netflix. They're gonna go to that and they're gonna check it out
Yeah.
on replay. So what's the point of scheduling it at the same time?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. You know, yeah, like I said, I can understand maybe weekly shows, but with PLEs and stuff, like even with the old takeovers, to be paired with a W pay per view makes more sense than
Right.
kind of what they're doing now. You would think a blank weekend would actually, you know, like I said, free up more people to watch wrestling if it was on, rather than having to make a choice. But anyway,
Right.
get to Battleground. Nice intro. I mean, I like it basic, and this PLE did feel more important than most because of the history of TNA was on the line, and we transitioned straight into Sol Ruka's entrance, being pushed on a surfboard with Zariah, which I shit you not, anybody else would have hated, but I love the transition, and I love the skateboard, but more of a surfboard, wasn't it? As we get the Women's North American Championship, Sol Ruka versus Kalani Jordan, and Jordan Jordan had Ruka's number at multiple points in this match. Ruka pulled off one of the highest highlight spots of the night, hitting a multiple handspring moonsault out of the ring onto Jordan. Jordan caught Ruka a 5-star frog splash, but Ruka kicked out on all 3 attempts that followed. Ruka went for a super poison runner, but landed on the feet and speared the challenger for the near fall. Saraya saved the North American champ from a split-legged moonsault. Manning mattered most. Saraya was sent to the back. Ruka regained momentum and caught Jordan with a unique top rope version of the Soul Snatcher to win. Go on, I'm tripping over my words because of how good this match was, Monty.
Yeah, man. I mean, they have a great chemistry. I mean, I think we remember the first time they kind of did. They both, baby faces, and they went out there and they put on a really good match, showed off their athleticism, and here we go again with that. And only this time it was even, I thought, even better because they seem to tell a more coherent story, too, along with Zarya's involvement and all of that type of stuff. So I really enjoyed this, man. It was actually one of those, not I ain't gonna say a pleasant surprise, but it was one of those matches where you look back at it and you like, wow, if you really think about it, move by move and all of that, it was one of the strongest matches of the night by far, and it kicked off the show. And it was really, really compelling. And I think honestly, you just got to give those girls credit because again, that we know they both. We talked about it, they both have green areas or areas, in my opinion, where they have to improve. And I think when you think about all the way back from Heat Wave when that first match happened to where we are now, they both seem to have, you know what I mean, gotten so much better in a lot of different ways that you don't know. In the important ways. I saw, I know we talked about her being released, but I saw Katana do an interview kind of talking about how she felt like she was good at everything in wrestling, but the important stuff, which means she could do all the flips, do all the nice moves, but when it came to storytelling or whether it came to her facial expressions or promos, she knew she still had to work on that, and that's what I mean when I'm talking about the little things when it comes to these incredible athletes that you have when it comes to Kalani and so Ruka here, don't go out and this is no shade to the first match because I enjoyed that one too. But it's like, not we know you're great. We know you can flip. We know the gymnastics background. We know the talent is there. Weave a story in between that, and then you get magic like this. And I thought this was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, since the last match against each of these women, they've improved leaps and bounds. It won't be long till you see this match on the main roster, kind of, wowing crowds on Raw and SmackDown. I thought this match was lush. Anybody who says too athletic and all this, like, just check your brain at the door, would you? And again, Monty, we've between us, we've seen a lot, and Soul may be the most athletic wrestler I've ever seen. Like the stuff she can do is amazing.
She makes it look easy. That's the scariest thing. Like she does stuff that we know is not easy. Or if you even go on her social media and you watch her train or watch her do stuff just for the hell of it, and it's just like that's not normal. You know what I mean? Being able to do things that she can do is just not normal. And I think again, the only thing you really have to watch out for, I know she has room to grow in other areas too, but it's like with that explosivity and with the talent that she had, it's like, earlier because she had a serious injury, it was like, can she stay healthy? So far, she's been on a really good run when it comes to health, and I just hope that it stays that way because, like you said, with that athleticism, with the look, and even the gimmick, and you know what I mean? Like we said, the many directions you could take it, I think she has the potential to be one of the biggest stars over the next 5 to 10 years in WWE. Like I mentioned, barring injuries and stuff like that. So again, this is another one of them things. Then again, with Kalani, like I mentioned before, she is starting to put the pieces together when it comes to making you believe and making you care about her matches and not just marvel at some of the athletic stuff she does as well. And I think that's only going to benefit her going forward too. So again, I think the future is bright for both ladies. Like you mentioned, they'll both be on the main roster, probably doing some of this same stuff sooner than later. But again, I just like you mentioned, it's kind of cool to when you think back to months ago and then you watch them running back here, and you're just like, wow, the progression. That is what you want to see when you think about prominent women in your division and watching them develop and get better It's really, really cool. And also it benefits the title, in my opinion. I think this is one of those matches that make the North American Championship look good because again, like we talked about with the other mid card women's championships across WWE, sometimes we barely get to see it. But to watch a champion like a Sol Ruker develop, get better, and also give kick ass defenses, what more could you really ask for, really, when you think about where they are in their career?
Yeah, without doubt. All that stuff you said, I couldn't agree more with. And the finish was fucking awesome as well.
Insane.
So out of five, then what would you give this?
I gave it a 4.5. I mean, 4.25.
Yeah, I gave it 4 3/4. Because again, it's the level of talent on show, the kind of like I said, the experience they got, but also the event they're doing it at. With a PLE starting off the
Right.
show in front of a hot crowd, so fair play there. Predictions, WNR Prediction League 2025. This is after Backlash and I think Double or Nothing. The bonus league, Monty's on 14, I'm on 12, Jaxie's on 11, Gina on 9. I'm not going to say the other ones because they depressed me so much. So we all went Soul, so all on one here. Then we got Sarah Schreiber interviewing TNA's Mike Santana, who made clear he was next up for the TNA World Championship. Charlie Dempsey disrespected him. Tavian Heights challenged him to a respectful match on NXT. And I tell you what, TNA have done a really good job with him as well. If the last time you've seen Mike Santana was like LAX back in the day, they kind of really got behind him.
Oh
And
yeah, he's
he
completely
he's
different
got,
animal now.
and he's got the connection with the crowd. That's what's important. And again, we'll see it on the next update, but there is a connection there, and all good wrestlers have it in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's been cool. It's been cool to watch him develop, and like you mentioned, to grow that connection and just get better in so many different ways. I don't know. I love them as a tag team, in AEW and all of that. Even like you said, even LAX originally. But it's like when you think about it, when you're watching a team, it's always interesting to see who would have the potential to kind of take off on their own like that. And he has definitely took off.
Yeah, without doubt. Unfortunately, you're going to bring us down now because we've got the Culling versus Hank and Tank with Josh
Yeah.
Briggs. I mean, Spears, Jensen, and Vance had the edge in this match due to their team experience of 6 months, but the pure impact of the champions and Briggs was the final decider. Jensen took a clothesline from hell and the honk honk to seal the victory. Afterwards, the Cullen laid out the champions. And Briggs until Inamura took a steel chair away from Izzy Dame and helped clear the ring. Briggs and Inamura embraced after the surprise return of the Noah Star. I mean, good for
He's
them.
never
I
going back to
can't.
Japan.
Yeah, but my God, to do that in front of a crowd and expect them to be like, "Oh yay!" I mean, what were your thoughts on the matchup as well?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like you mentioned, it wasn't really the most memorable thing when it comes from a match, in my opinion. Nothing really stand out to me the most. I'm not gonna say it weren't interesting at all. I do think after that first match, it was kind of crazy to kind of switch up the pace and everything. Everything, it's like almost did the exact opposite when it came to this match. But I didn't think it was a bad tag. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's interesting, man. Do you think Briggs? Do you think you can? Do you think it's any potential here for Josh Briggs to actually be a single star,
No,
or do
no.
you? Or do you? Okay, no. So we're
Yeah, no,
100%. So
yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
100% stuck with either Brooks Jensen or you
Mm-hmm.
know. Okay,
He,
gotcha, or something.
He
Okay.
he's literally the Bradshaw of his day. If you
So he's gonna actually become a valuable single star about 5, 10 years from now.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, again, I don't mind it. It was cool to see any more come back. Even though when I seen it, I was like, honestly, at this point, Japan must be just right around the block. It's just you can
Mm.
just pop back up from Japan, huh? But it is what it is. The culling is not interesting whatsoever. I don't know what they need to do to make me really care. And then, overall, this is what I wrote, and you're gonna get a kick out of this. Is like I miss Fraction, and that was it.
Oh,
That's what I
yeah,
put because imagine having that first match and then having a fraction match right here or
yeah.
something.
Oh,
Oh, we'll
oh,
be off to the races, bro.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, have this on the kickoff. I know you only have half-hour kickoffs,
Right.
but again, you know, a 10-minute match on there is fine, especially you're going to have the face team win. But again, digging down a little deeper, the culling and most NXT groups are awful. And again, is it no, no, but is it the curse of the undisputed era? Because you think about every group
Yeah.
that's come in has just
Yeah.
they don't even break up; they just
They usually die off
dissolve.
before they go. Yeah, they just
Yeah.
dissolve before they can even make it to the main roster. Yeah, 100% right. 100% right. Man, that's interesting. That is very interesting. You know, especially with the honestly, since the Undisputed Era, do you think the family is the most successful
So I think yeah,
faction
it's got to
since
be.
the Undisputed Era? Like the family might until they just, but they broke up as you can see now. So yeah, it's very interesting thought process. I would have to go back through the annals of NXT since the Undisputed Era to see has any group even remotely scratched the surface. You're 100% right, but the culling is weird to me because and maybe for Easy Dame, I guess it's done something for her, but the culling is interesting to me is because I felt like I knew from the jump they weren't gonna be much. Like like that's the weirdest part to me that I kind of figured from the beginning that this wasn't gonna be the most interesting thing in the world. But hey, we'll see. We'll see. This was what it was. It did bring the show down a little bit. And then we do have something right after this that I didn't have no expectations for also. So this was a tough little patch in this show. Let's get through.
Yeah. Well, I see Spears has picked up right where he left off in NXT or AEW or the
Mm-hmm.
main roster or wherever he was. Bless him.
Mm-hmm. Whatever.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, and when they mentioned it on commentary as well, because I quite like the three-man team now. It's growing me a little bit. But they
Yeah.
mentioned saying I've had to deal with Brooks Jensen for over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you
Yeah.
believe that?
He's a
Oh
vet.
my god.
He's a vet at
Um,
this point, an NXT veteran.
I was trying to think any highlights. Oh, our boy Hank flying into the ring post was probably the highlight of there.
Yeah.
He did
Yeah.
miss up breaking a pin. Don't worry, the referee just waited. The match wasn't shit. Out of 5, Monty.
I give it three and a quarter.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 3.5. We all went culling, apart from Jaxie. What has happened? What has happened? Jaxie on
Wow.
2. The rest on what the fuck is that about, eh? Anyway,
I only
back.
went them because I was like, the Cullen should do something. I promise you that was my
Yeah,
logic.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, they should finally do something, right? Nope.
Well, even I almost thought Inamura was going to return, so you know, I just thought, well, Briggs probably going to turn them and join the culling, you know. But
Right.
anyway, backstage, Ava interrupted all ego Ethan Page to advise him to open the show in his North American Championship challenge against Ricky Saints on the next update, and then the winner would defend at Wells Collide. Because again, with such short space in between, like 2 weeks or however it was from the next event, you kind of got to get it all going. And then we get Tony D versus Channon Stacks Lorenzo. Stacks came out to a new and surprisingly solid theme and walked over the jacket he once was gifted by the Don. Oh, you son of a gun! D'Angelo hit 2 spine busters, but instead of taking a pin, he kept battering the underboss with punches. The Don ducked Stacks, sent him into the steel post. Then D'Angelo hit him with a forget about it. And the underboss managed to kick out. We get a heated stretch of dominance from Tony. The Don hesitated to finish the job, allowing Stacks to keep fighting. D'Angelo planted Stacks for the elevated spinebuster, only for Luca Crucifino to arrive as a distraction. The underboss low blowed the Don, hit the cement shoes for the victory. So we got to forget about it and the cement shoes, but he got the win. Afterwards, Crucifino tried to hug the Don, but he would not let him, clearly not trusting him. Obviously, why would you try a hug afterwards? But anyway, false. We knew the vignettes would feed this feud, but it wasn't too bad.
You way higher on this than me. I'm not gonna say again. You're right. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't atrocious, but again, they seem to be way better off, or they seem to be in their sweet spots when they're trying to tell a story. And the best moments of this match is definitely the storytelling that they're trying to get into. The problem, in my opinion, and we've talked about this to no end when it comes to the family, But the problem, in my opinion, showed in this match was that the problem is once you give them 15 plus minutes, can they do anything to keep you interested that long in between? Because that's what I'm saying. Like the best parts are the storytelling bits, but you have to wrestle in between the storytelling bits.
No, you
And the
don't.
problem,
No, you
okay, oh, so you're
don't.
not. Okay, my fault. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm watching the wrong thing. You're 100% right. Maybe you don't have to wrestle, but that's what they seem to believe. But in my opinion, that is the problem. When you give them this much time, you're expected to keep everyone's attention, not just in those storytelling moments or when a Luca shows up and all that type of stuff. So, for me, the only memorable stuff being the interfering and being a lot of the storytelling and nothing really of the match. Like you recounted the name of the finisher. That was interesting and funny. But do you even remember or care about the quality of the finisher? Like, was it any moves in this match that just got you going? I can't
No.
remember one. So exactly. So to me, it was very tough to keep my attention for the entire 15 minutes. Although I do commend them for at least telling a story. They got that part down, but it's kind of like the opposite of what I was saying about early Kalani and Saul Ruka. It's like, all right, you're doing great wrestling, but where's the story? Or where can you give me some type of storytelling also? Well, this one is nothing but storytelling, and you give me 15 minutes of it with like below average to average wrestling. I'm cool on that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, is it horrible? Is it the worst thing I've ever seen? Of course not. But it was definitely, in my opinion, in a tough position. And then it was also after a match that was better to me, but also wasn't that interesting either. So it's really tough, in my opinion, for me to give you that many props. If I don't think you're as good as the match before, that wasn't even that interesting either. So yeah, and you took longer. So yeah, man, I don't know. Maybe they gave him too much time. I know what they want us to feel about this match, but when it comes to a wrestling match, and you know what? Maybe to me, maybe that's what I need. Maybe I'll get more from this when we get a stipulation match of some sort or something like that, because it would line up way more with what the story they're trying to tell, and you can do more storytelling and rely on the painful spots to kind of keep us interested. But just pure wrestling, I don't necessarily need to see them pure wrestling one on one anymore, because we already kind of know what to expect with just some solid to not the most interesting wrestling.
Imagine watching NXT for the first time, and this, you see a soul match, and then you got these two fucking matches right afterwards. You're not going to be happy, are you? You're not going to stick around.
Right.
But
So confused.
but again, you asked me what I was doing. I was just saying "fuck you, Luca" during this matchup, but not Rizzo. Please, not Rizzo. All right, leave Rizzo alone. And also thought about they should have Ridge and Stack's team, as they're both fans of the flat cap. I think that's how far I got. The feud isn't over. We have one answer: the cinematic, finale with maybe explosions and stuff like that. I think that's better than anything else. Because they did do, remember the Halloween ones where they went to like the haunted house. They can do Tony doing that shit. That'd be fine. I'm happy with that. But like I said,
And
not
then
best
did
interesting.
Stacks just show up a couple weeks later like nothing happened?
Yeah. Just carry it on, and then Tony just moves on. What are we going to score this one?
I give it a 3.
I'm going to give it a 3 3/4. I was really into this fucking matchup by the look of things. My
Wow.
God. I know. Predictions, we all went Stack. So Jaxie's on 3. The rest is on 2. NXT Women's Championship, Stephanie Vaquer versus Jordan Grace. And Vaquer and Grace went to war. Vaquer went for the Devil's Kiss, but Grace rolled the champion outside and planted her on the announce table. The crowd was loud in support of Vaquer than anyone else up until this point. Grace nearly got the win off a superplex into a jackhammer. The Primera sent the Juggernaut through the barricade and then hit the SVB in the ring for a surprise near fall. It took everything in her arsenal to steal the win, and Stephanie pulled out the spiral tap to finally put Jordan Grace down. Wow. I mean, Monty, what a fucking matchup this was.
Yeah, man, it was a really good match, and I'm not sure which one I prefer. I did see a couple of debates, and I saw some people saying it wasn't as good as the Julia match, or it was. But to be honest, man, that just kind of shows you the caliber of all three women that we were so lucky in the women's division when it comes to having these two ladies on top fighting for the championship. They went out there, they gave it their all. I'm not sure if I say this is uh the strongest match, but the strongest match of the night is really balancing it out with another women's match, which is also a perfect little microcosm of where we've been when it comes to NXT, when it comes to our women's division. We're so blessed, really at the top of both our women's divisions when it comes to North American and women's championship. And this was just another impressive match. I think I went with Grace, going just because I kind of felt like the writing was on the wall. I think you kind of can see that Steph would be moving on soon. So to me, I thought this was the time, pass it to Jordan and we can move on to the next era, especially with seeming Julia being called up too already, Roxanne. So it just felt like Stephanie would probably be
Yeah.
gone soon. And, spoiler alert, she will be, but this wasn't the time. You know what I mean? It wasn't the time here. I didn't mind. It's one of the situations where it's like I want a different outcome, but when you watch the match and you see how we got there, it's just like, wow, what a match. You just more focus on how great the match was instead of that I was wrong per se. But
Mm.
yeah, man, this was right up there, man. I don't really know. I think I'm rated maybe a little higher than the Kalani match. So maybe like 4.5 overall. But this was just like you said, they went out there and they went for it. They really impressed, in my opinion. And honestly, like you mentioned, I don't think Stephanie can get more over when it comes to just in general. Like the way that she gets a reaction and is leaking to them is already happening on the main roster. But the way her NXT run is just kind of how shot out of a cannon she is and how great of a champion she is. But like you mentioned, James, with Julia, it hasn't been that long. And for her to blaze this type of path and have one of the strongest runs when it comes to match quality and when it comes to fan engagement, it is insane to think about how big of a star La Premier can be for WWE sooner than later. Like ways to by next year she could be um, next to Rhea Ripley when it comes to popularity. That's where it feels like the
Yeah.
trajectory she's on.
And I think WWE are clever as well because even I think I've seen some Stephanie horns, you know what I mean, and even that is like that's a
Right.
fucking great idea.
That's so
But like
smart.
she has that legendary NXT feel, but like you said, she has even more than that. She has this aura about her at the moment where you do need to kind of, again, I know it's like, oh, you have to play with the cat, but she's just hot now. Make the most of it. Do you know what I mean? Because again, at
True.
some point it might fade. But it's quite funny though. We talk about, I think we talked about the last update with Jordan Grace. Hasn't really beaten anybody apart from maybe Roxanne Perez in NXT, and of course we know what's
And then with
gonna
Julia.
happen if yeah exactly so Julie as well, sorry, but do you know what I mean, again that just seemed like it was there for a short space of time.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm so shocked. But like you're right. It's kind of crazy how that's turned out. I maybe it's because they didn't realize until it kind of kicked off just how big of a star Stephanie seemed like she's on the track to become. But then you also have the involvement of like you have a Julia there, you have a Roxanne still being in the picture and also working on the main roster. So, it's one of those weird things, and I really do wonder because she lost this match because that was my thought. Was I'm like they pass it to her, Jordan takes it, and then we can move on, and we can have her lead the charge to whatever era is next. But that's not what happened. So it's very interesting where Jordan Grace is after a big loss like this, like you mentioned, James, because for somebody who's a juggernaut, somebody I kind of thought would come into NXT and dominate. It's kind of funny, like we mentioned with Zari. Like we said, Zari will come in and dominate. Neither has really dominated, even though we know with Jordan Grace, we know who she is and how she is a prominent figure in this women's division. So it'll be interesting to see, what journey we kind of get taken on by Jordan Grace, and is it just going to be one of those things where they're going to make her earn that women's title and are we going to enjoy the chase, or is it like, or does she have different trajectories in mind? Hell, I've also heard rumors that she might be getting called up sooner than later, which is weird to me because I feel like she got so much else, so much stuff, so much other stuff that she can do. But I also get it because I'm not one of the people who don't think she can handle the main roster or think she's ready. So it's really interesting, man. It's really interesting where we are with Jordan Grace. And I don't know. I'm really, really, we really got to keep an eye on where we think on that situation because it seems like we'll see. She could be by the next update. She can already be on the main roster, or chasing a championship in the NXT. So it's very interesting to see what's next for Jordan Grace. But this was an excellent match, though.
Yeah, without doubt. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Grace like as Becky Lynch's henchwoman or something like that. Do you know what I mean? That's what
Yeah,
she
yeah,
maybe
the
could do.
muscle. Yeah,
But it's interesting to think Grace and Hendry on the same card as both of the faces of TNA for the last couple of years as well. And of
right.
course, let's not forget Jordan Grace has got heat with Booker now for stopping the knees. But I really enjoyed this. For me, I'm going to give it a I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. Fuck it. There we go. That's what I put there. I'm not going to lie. Predictions, we all went Stephanie, apart from Monty. So Jaxie is on 4. Me and Gina on 3. Monty's on 2. Ah, can we just enjoy that for a second here? I know I'm not winning, but at least I'm not losing. Um, Backstage, Vaquero was arguing with Tormenta and Dallas, I suppose. Jace Jane attacked their Premier forcing officials to break up the brawl. So these were the women from Triple A, I think. Yes, I am right about that. Setting up, obviously, Worlds Collide. Ricky Saints got an in-ring interview with Sarah Schreiber, who promised to beat Paige on Tuesday and stand as an ambassador for NXT at Worlds Collide. All Ego tried to sneak attack Saints, but he sent him outside the ring and dived on him and security. Do they know it's a PLE? Like to have this segment is like, do you know it's PLE? And do you know Starks has only had one match at a PLE as well? So again, I just don't understand why they just didn't kind of put him on.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Like I said, I don't know if he, was working through an injury or something at this point or not. But like you mentioned, for him to not be on the card or to have to be kind of placed in this segment to get on the card, very very interesting booking decision on why we had to put. Because really, when you think about, since it is the first match on the next NXT, it's just like, you mean tell me we couldn't replace that tag match with this?
Oh no, we needed the Cullen. Right, so up next, the NXT Championship match: Obafemi versus Miles Bourne, and Dempsey glared at Bourne, and when he put out his fist for a fist bump during his entrances, he must be looking at Finn Balor. And while Bourne was supposed to be the underdog babyface in this match, the crowd was behind Oba from the start. I mean, come on, it's Oba fucking Femi, you know. He dominated Miles early in the match, but the Bourne managed to stay strong and found technical openings to wear down the NXT champion. The ruler was never outmatched, but Bourne kept him on his toes. After the challenger kicked out the first fall from Grace, Oba hit 2 more to seal the win. And again, it's like the Hulk. Do you know what I mean? It's like, this move doesn't work. I'll hit you with it 3 more fucking times.
Right.
Oba gave a nod of approval to Bourne before he headed to the back. Again, I thought this was good business all round.
Yeah, I think it was really good. I mean, it was another classic attempt at trying to, thwart what the monster that Obafemi is, and it's very interesting when you really think about it. Just how, I'm not saying you can insert almost anybody because Oba is so dominant and good, but his formula works so well that whether you knew whether you believed in Miles Bourne or whether you're not quite sure about him yet. I think you can look at this match, look at the effort that he put in, look at the story that they told, which is probably the most impressive thing to me about the match was I thought it was just a great underdog fighting from underneath, trying to overcome something, trying to conquer a conqueror basically. And just, not necessarily Dave versus Goliath because they're both, pretty, big guys. But when you're going against Obafemi, man, you're dealing with something else. And I think that's kind of still the overarching story. But at the same time, you come away like, you know what? That Miles Bourne kid, he's tough. he fought as hard as he possibly could, and it just wasn't enough because Oba is too much. But I think at the end of the day, like you said, it was a good piece of business all around. Because while I still may not look at Miles Bourne as championship material today, 6 months down the
Yeah.
line, couple more great performances, who knows? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the type of stuff you plant the seeds in people's head because you watched him fight so hard and how much work Oba actually had to put in to finally put him down. So, he gained a lot, right, from this match. And I think that's kind of cool. Like you mentioned, Oba Femi is not the most experienced guy himself, but to already be at the stage where as a champion, you're building up contenders. Like, I just think his progression is insane when you really think about where we are with him already in his young career.
Yeah, like I said, to be able to carry opponents now is just crazy. Miles didn't look out of place, as you mentioned as well. We got the RKO chance. He really should be Orton's young boy as his first gimmick on the main roster.
A hundred
But
percent.
that's what it should be. But fair play to kick out the fall from Grace. So what are you going to give out of 5?
I give it a 4. I thought it was, like you said, it was really, really, really good storytelling. I thought the wrestling was solid. And again, I think going into the match, you just wanted Miles to come out of the match in better shape than he kind of left it without looking like he just didn't belong. And I think, like you mentioned, he definitely looked like he was ready for the moment. And I think Obafemi looked dominant as ever. So, like you said, both guys win. 4 stars for me. Good, like you said, good
Yeah.
piece of business.
Yeah, 4 for me. And again, it's weird that we did an update and Obafemi's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, but this is how dominant he is. You can sit on that mountain and just wait for the challenges to kind of form. Like I said, we've got other issues to deal with, so I'm really enjoying it at the moment. Predictions, Ruin Oba. So Jaxie is on 5, 1 away from a perfect score. Jaxie, if you listen to this, you're just 1 away. James and Gina are on 4, Monty is on 3, and then for the first time ever, a TNA title was on the line at a WPLE with Joe Hendry not only defending a title, but the legacy of a 20 years of total non-stop action. So Oba's got Undertaker. Joe couldn't even have AJ Styles come up to him or say anything. But don't worry, no pressure. You're against Trick Williams, and they showed the TNA president ringside. Nice hat. And the crowd was rocking for Hendry and chanting TNA to start. Trick hit Joe with a fall-away slam and went for the classic Hendry pose. He then caught the champion running for a bookend and a near fall. Booker T called out that he had been training Trick, followed by Trick hitting a spinneroonie. I fucking love it. Hendry then made him pay for it with a bookend. Hendry ducked an axe kick from Trick, sorry, and hit the standing ovation. Trick got his foot on the bottom rope. Trick sent Hendry in an announce table with bookend, then hit a Trick knee in the ring, but the champion still kicked out. Trick Williams felt the match falling away from him. Joe Hendry kicked out the Trick shot, so he brought in the World Championship. The referee tried to take it out quickly. Trick planted Hendry on the championship, following an eye rake, followed by a Trick shot, and your new TNA World Heavyweight Champion is Trick Williams. Monty, what are your thoughts on this?
Man, it was insane. I was pleasantly surprised and just shocked, but happy. Very happy for Trick because I've been asking the questions post challenging for the NXT Championship and that run that we talked about with him on top and how kind of that felt lackluster towards the end. Well, basically the whole way he fought. He don't even get me started on that, but yeah. So we talked about that, and I asked the question: What's next for Trick? What's next for Trick? Main roster? Like what's next for Trick? And for them to kind of throw this type of I'm not gonna say a monkey wrench, but it was definitely a swerve from my point of view. To not only have him challenging, but like even when he challenged, I kind of just expected a good match. We give Hendry, but we give Hendry a title shot here, and we enhance the relationship. But for them to go last was my first kind of tell because last on the fact first of all the fact that we have Impact Championship last on the NXT PLE already cool
Yeah.
by itself and insane. But that's my point. We have that, and I just didn't see it. Like historically, I remember when I wanted them to pull the trigger on with the Jordan Grace situation, and I was just like, well, it just seemed like this. They just won't ever do that. They won't ever They won't ever have a championship trade hands in NXT from Impact, and for us to have the championship of Impact change hands to an NXT talent, and then it be Trick Williams with all the messy to talk, and just how again how over Hendry was. I was genuinely shocked that this is what they decided to do. Even with him standing tall going into the show, I still was like, nah, I don't know. I just can't. I don't see it. WWE don't usually do it. But again, it was really. We got history here. Trick Williams has made history, and going forward, I know a lot of people love to throw him in Melo's shadow. But this is one thing he can say he's done that Melo has never done. So again, I don't know, man. I was just pleasantly surprised and like so excited. The match itself, again, I thought had a lot of good moments. It was very memorable. It had a lot of spots in it that was, in my opinion, that kind of you could tell how the crowd was invested and all of that. Even though I'm not gonna act like it was like the greatest wrestled match. I thought for both of their styles and what we know from them, they wrestled a really good contest, told a good story. But Trick winning, I don't know, man. You may look at this completely different. But for me, seeing Trick Williams as TNA champion, I'm very happy because I'm a Trick Williams fan. But other than that, I couldn't really believe it. I thought it was very damn cool though, but I just still couldn't really believe it. I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Well, the biggest marks for WWE aren't WWE fan; it is TNA management. They just love anything WWE, and you knew from the start. Well, I personally knew, especially with Trick, that I thought this is the direction they're going to go. There's a few things obviously I want to add. Something you said as well, and I think it's an excellent point with Trick Williams now stepping out of Melo's shadow, because you could argue all the NXT title run was thanks to kind of involvement with Melo and Ilya Dragunov, and Trick has done this on his own now as well. And I think, and we've mentioned it in past updates, that he's finally learn in ring, as you can see, how to kind of work the match now.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Right, right,
he's a lot
right.
more confident, as you can tell. I love Joe Hendry, but I don't think he's won a WPLE, because I know he lost to Ethan Page. He lost at Rumble, lost at WrestleMania, lost now. Maybe it's the redemption arc, but like you said, they had the crowd in the palm of the hands. And for Joe Hendry to get cheered more than Trick, I thought was fucking brilliant. Let's not forget there was an outsider win the TNA title. That was Kenny Omega. And then we had the Christian shenanigans with Christian beating Kenny and then dropping it to Josh Alexander. So all I will say is Trick must drop it to a TNA talent. I
Right.
don't care who it is, but that has to be. You have to put a TNA talent. I thought it might say like Mike Santana. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And it still might be. But again, it just seems to me, unless it's this redemption of Joe kind of finding a different side, which I would love even more. Um,
Yeah.
I think Joe's
Uh,
biggest problem now is like
Go
he has
ahead.
to show how to make people work. Yeah, or how
Yes.
he can work. There was a moment he
Mm-hmm.
had to catch his breath, and he back at one point in the matchup, but the crowd
Mm-hmm.
was so invested it didn't really matter.
Right, right, right. And again, I think people are so invested in him that, like you said, some of those weak spots, or some people are always on Hendry about, whether or not how good of a wrestler he is and all of that. But like you mentioned, that connection with the crowd is just something about it. And but you're right. Over a 15 minute, 10+ minute match, you start to see some of those weak spots, and I think that's probably where he needs to improve the most if he wants to continue to be that top guy in Impact. But you mentioned, James, like you said, it has been outsider, so that's why I wasn't really shocked that Impact did it. It's WWE who, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
the shocked part kind of for me. But I don't mind it because again, it's history. It's something that at the end of the day that Trick Williams can always say he did, always have over, other talent or whatever. And I'm with you. I do think it's going to. Hopefully it's at one of the Impact pay-per-views or something too, and we do get a good payoff with some Impact talent. ending up on top, ending up as champion. I did love some of the immediate reactions from like the Nimitz and like some of the other people.
Yeah.
I did love the Impact talent really not liking it and hating the fact that Trick was there. I love it because and then Trick playing off of that, in my opinion, has been marvelous in his replies and just this entire character. Again, I love everything that they've done so far when it comes to where Trick is as a character. But like you said, the question now is, what is the end goal? Who do we put over, and who is that next guy? If it's not, like you say, a redemption arc kind of build for Joe Hendry, which it still may be. So it's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be really, really cool. And just like how cool is it that we got a WWE guy that's an Impact guy, and that gives you extra motivation to keep up with what's going on in Impact because you never know, he might have to defend it 1 week or something like that, and against an Impact talent, and it'd be something you, even if you're not watching it all the time, you could something. It's definitely something to still keep your eye on because we have a WWE guy as the Impact World Champion. But yeah, man, it's really damn cool, man. I'm really proud for Trick because again, uh, I wasn't really sure. Now Sean kind of made me confident because despite everything we highlighted about the weak booking of Trick Williams over the last year or the inconsistencies anyway, he still was hesitant to say that NXT is just Hope Obafemi's brand. He would say, "Oh, it's Obafemi and Trick Williams. Those are the men of NXT." But for women, he said it's by far Stephanie. You know what I mean? It's by
Yeah,
far
yeah,
Stephanie Valkyrie. So in Sean's mind, Trick Williams is still the guy next to Obafemi, and he's now a world champion next to Obafemi
yeah,
in the NXT, roster. So it's really, really cool from that perspective when you really think about it.
yeah.
But I don't know, man. It'd be interesting to see where we end up.
Well, like you said, the thing with Trick that's interesting now is even this last the update that we've just done has focused more on Trick than it has Obafemi. So, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, he is still a top tier talent. There is Slammiversary coming up. I think 20th of July, which is Impact's next big pay
It's a
per
good
view.
place to pass it up
So that could
if
be
they
a good
want to.
place. He's going to defend it as well against all odds, which
Mm,
again we'll cover that and whatever all the other shenanigans going on. Because, like you said, it sets the tone now of TNA being fucking annoyed that Trick Williams is the
right.
champion, whether it be real or not. It will create headlines as well, which is probably is the main goal. But like
Mm-hmm.
I said, it's because Trick's a champion. I feel in a better place because the association with him. I think it was another wrestler. Do you know what I mean? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if I could be that on board with it, but I'm like, oh, it's Trick, man. It's fine. Like this is
Right.
good. It's going to be good TV for a couple of months. So again, I've got
And it's gonna be
real.
great experience for Trick because fighting some of the top stars of Impact, most of those guys that we really look at as world champions, they're vets. So Trick is
Mhm.
gonna be in there with guys who know what the hell they're doing. So Trick is only gonna get better from this too. Like that's
Yeah,
another great perspective to look at it too. From also because not only are you gonna get exposure, like you said, you're gonna get headline, and they're telling an interesting story because Trick is basically taking on Impact by himself if you kind of listen to his vernacular, or at least the way he talks about Impact. So yeah, man. Again, it's just one of those situations where I think they found the right guy, but it's gonna be interesting how the cards and how they play it and how all this plays out. But at the end of the day, you can never take away that on NXT Battleground, Trick Williams made history, man. And
yeah.
that's pretty damn cool all by itself.
Yeah, well, that's how history has been made at Battleground. I will say as well for Joe Hendry, Joe Hendry supporters stay on board with him because even if he doesn't kind of not successful in regaining the title, if that's the plan, then 6 months down the line he could be showing up at the Royal Rumble as a WWE employee. So it's not the end of the world for Joe Hendry at this moment in time. So scores for the main event, Monty. What do you give it?
I give it a 4. I thought it was a really good match. Again, like you said, the energy was incredible. And I just thought, again, having Trick Williams make history, whether I picked him or not, insanely cool to me because, again, I just love when we step outside the box, try something new. And again, this is going to be fresh, like you mentioned, you said hot television for Impact for the next few weeks or month. Same thing can be said for Trick Williams' character whenever he's on NXT. Also, so the fact that we can benefit both shows, and then everybody we get more experience, we get more exposure for Impact. It's a win-win from that perspective, even if it was something I was not expecting them to do.
Yeah, which again is great, isn't it? You know, could be talk about how predictable TV can be sometimes. So when it throws up a shot like that, it is good. Prediction, I give it 4 as well. Predictions, we all went Joe Hendry, apart from me. So Jaxie has thrown it away at the last second, a perfect score. So final scores: Monty on 3, Gina on 4, and Jaxie and I on 5. I finally got a victory after what seems like months. Oh God. Bonus league, Monty on 14. I'm on 13. Jaxie on 12. Fucking tight at the top. And Gina on 9. All right. And I'll tell you another thing I liked as well, Monty, before I get your rating and your MVP. Because, I mean, I'm a good match as well, I suppose. But with ads out, you talked about this. I watched a replay on Netflix a couple of days later. They took all the ads out. It was 2 hours and 15 minutes. You know? I mean, how
Right.
good is that?
So cool. Like it's so cool to be able to not have to worry about that, and just to just
uh,
run through a show smoothly, So yeah, man, the pacing of these shows, like, and when you're able to watch it like that, insanely cool. But yeah, overall, I give probably this show a good 8.5. I thought it was a really good show from the top, especially the first match. We got a history making to pretty good match at the end there. We have two of the we got you got a great, like I said, great women's match to start the show, great women's championship match, which I think Jordan Grace and Stephanie will be my match of the night. But yeah, I think overall 8.5 is probably fair because I felt like, let's say you cut that tag match, and then maybe if you cut the time of how long you gave Stacks and Tony, and we could be on the edge of one of the strongest takeover shows. But because of that, and like you said, a couple of segments that you thought was kind of made for TV instead of being on this show, I cut it down to an 8.5, and give props to all the ladies. I think all 4 of the ladies absolutely killed it. I think my MVP of the night will probably be Trick Williams, just because he did something that at the end of the day, like I said, is going to be something that he'll be able to brag about for the rest of his career. So I'm gonna go with that, even though you could easily say Stephanie or any of the women. So yeah, that's probably where I'm gonna see that on that one. I thought, again, pretty good show, but like if you cut some of that unneeded stuff out or stuff that just wasn't the most interesting, it would have been an even better show.
yeah, I completely agree. Apart from not having a fractured match, I mean, they will be missed. I know we've mentioned.
Oh my
But
god.
like I said, for me, this is 8 3/4. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. It's 2 hours of my time, man. You know what I mean? Like, again, I like AEW, but to spend like 4.5 hours of
Yeah.
wading through, and with this one, just sit down. Oh, it's fucking finished already. Wow. Which, so 8 3/4. MVP's definitely Trick, and both our match of the night is Stephanie versus Jordan Grace. We're going to leave it here. Look, I know we've got so much stuff to talk about, all right? We've got title changes. We've got Mr. Iguana. We've got fucking I cannot wait to talk to you about that, Monty. But I'm going to hold on to it, you see? Hold on
JC
for it. So,
James.
oh, God. Oh, how shocked were you? We'll talk about it. No, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about the next update.
Wait.
Oh God! So, what are your thoughts on this? Because again, we're standing delivery. We've caught up to Battleground. What were your thoughts on NXT during that time?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when you think about everything NXT had to deal with the releases and just kind of like revolving door of not knowing if the top of your women's division, if they're going to be main roster bound, and then you have the LFG people coming in and even evolve, and then you like you said, we talent that we lose. I really uh got to give them props for at least keeping most of the stories coherent and keeping things. I think, like you said, maybe that's why they focus so much on an established star. You lean on a Trick Williams, you lean on a Stephanie, and all that in these uncertain times of NXT until you get your roster together and until you can kind of decide on where you want to go next. We talked about it. I love Hank and Tank winning the belts because they really gave us a great performance. But are they ready to lead a tag division? That's going to be one of those interesting things going forward. And if not, even if they are they ready to lead one? Do we care enough, or is there anybody else we invested in enough in the tag division next to them to kind of help out too? Because Hank and Tank may be impressive, but you're gonna have to be able to not only you're gonna have to be able to carry your end of the bargain, but also see because how do we know if they can make new stars or not? If they're what I mean, if they're not in the situation. So the tag division, we've been mentioning it. Without Fraxium, we're gonna have to see where are we going in the post Fraxium era in the tag division. The North American title is in the middle of a feud at this point. Interesting stuff when it comes to we got two vets in that situation going on. So I don't mind that as much. But like we have so much more to gain. What's next for Obafemi after this? It's a lot of the questions that you end up asking. But overall, I would say when you consider everything they had to deal with, focusing on Trick Williams, making history and doing that type of stuff, I thought ended up being a kind of smart play while they figure out who's gonna be the main fixtures of our women's division and men's division going forward. Because, like you mentioned, James, it feels like we're on the precipice of another new era in NXT. Whether Obafemi, even if Obafemi is still on top of that era, it feels like overall with the roster changes and stuff like that, that we're gonna be seeing a lot of different stuff going forward in NXT. So but like I said, considering everything they kind of dealt with post WrestleMania, I thought they did a decent job of keeping the ship together.
And like you said, not to big up too much, but the next update, the landscape of NXT changes forever. And that's not like a Triple H thing or whatever. That it's actually true. But that is it for today. So don't forget, across all social media, X at the WNR Podcast. I'm at the WNR Pod James. You can find the entire WNR team on the banner. Also now on Blue Sky, WNR Podcast, and Reddit. Monty, where can people find and follow you?
At my Monty Pod on Twitter. That's where I'm at.
Dublin also on Facebook and Instagram. Send us an email to dublinpodcast@gmail.com. And YouTube, just like to thank everybody YouTube for watching, subscribing and liking and everything else. We're hitting records, it seems, every single day. The Dublin Podcast got up on YouTube, same time as you do SoundCloud on your phone, also Spotify and iTunes, but you can download, subscribe, rate and review there. So that is it. Our next episode will be Money in the Bank. And then, of course, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time for the Worlds Collide and our next NXT update. But till then, I've been James Rowlands and I was joined by the mind of Monty. Thank you for joining me, Monty, yet again. We're nearly there. We'll be there soon.
Yep, we're almost at the end of the road, sir. But it's a never ending game because once you catch up, you're immediately behind. So we always one step behind our child here, but it was good to check up on them again.
Well, thank you, and thank